Good evening.
We're going to get started with tonight's meeting.
Oh, just so everyone's aware, Frank DeBrango is in here. Yeah.
Frank DeBrango is inside that
Yeah.
small box over there.
All right.
No, he will be attending. All right, are the cameras ready?
He's sick.
Are the cameras ready? Okay. All right, so we're going to get started tonight with the Utica Common Council meeting. We're going to start off with William Rabia. He's going to come up and talk to us about Oneida County solid waste. You can come right up here. There's a camera, or there's a microphone right up here.
Here, have a seat, Bill. Because the
Sit
microphone's
down.
right there.
There's going to be some changes going on next year. He just wants to give us an update and kind of let us know what's going on at this point.
Thank you. I want to thank you for the time. I know you have a very busy agenda tonight. So my name is William Rabby. I'm Executive Director of the Oneida Herkimer Solid Waste Authority. I've met most of you over previous bid cycles, but the Solid Waste Authority, through an intermunicipal agreement, we manage and oversee the curbside collection contract within the city. So we do a number of things through that contract, such as procuring blue bags, collecting and selling those blue bags to multiple vendors. We oversee the user fee program, and a big part of our responsibility is putting together specifications and procurement for the actual collection contract, and that's the main reason why I'm here tonight. I've handed out a bunch of handouts that I definitely don't plan to go through all that information. But the current contract for collection in the city is, as you all know, a company called CWSI holds that contract. That contract will expire on March 31st, 2023. With a contract this size, it's important to get out at least a year in advance of the contract's expiration to solicit new bids and ultimately see whether the current contractor will get it again, or if someone new, they'll have necessary time to procure equipment. The purpose of my visit tonight is really just to open dialogue and start to get feedback from the council on any potential changes. I talk regularly with Dave Short. I've talked with Marcus, a few councilors individually, about things they potentially would like us to get alternate or optional bids on, so then we could come back to the council and discuss potential changes. One change could be soliciting a collection, quotes on a collection contract that includes carts, rolling carts for recyclables, for instance. So we'll basically put out, we're starting to develop those draft bid specs. We can put in a number of draft options, so then we have true real-world numbers to discuss and see how it fits in to the city system. City system dates way back. It was founded in 1988. It's in city code, so set out requirements, how it's all paid for, the blue bag system, the user fees, that's all in the city code, and ultimately the councilors set the rates on if the rates need to be adjusted. And many of you have been before to discuss this in the past, although the system's been very stable price-wise, and we continue to hope it stays stable. But that's the goal, is to basically open the dialogue, start to get feedback from you folks on things you may want to see. Our goal is to have a bid on the street in February of 2021, so ultimately an award can be made in March of 2022. And so an award can be made a full year in advance of the expiration of the contract. Besides talking with you folks, we're also sitting down with the haulers, sitting down with CWSI, seeing how things can be made more efficient, can be improved, and so we can consider those in the bid specs. That's my shtick tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any brief questions if you have them. As I mentioned, there's a bunch of information I gave you on, the funds and how the overall system is funded. It's roughly 50% of the revenues to pay for the system comes from user fees. The other 50% comes from sales of blue bags. And go ahead.
No, actually. So I have one question first. So it looks like things are staying the same, and they have been the same since 2019,
Correct.
if it looks correct?
The 18-19 season.
Yep. Okay, so everything across the board, large bags, small bags, single family,
Correct.
two-family house, multiple.
So throughout the next fiscal year of the fund, April 2022 through March of 2023, we're projecting that rates are stable. They are flat.
Okay, so,
Again, this mission is to start looking at that next term.
thank you. Councilperson Friend, you have the floor next.
Thank you, Mr. Robbie. First of all, you guys do a great job. I think we're incredibly lucky to have the Solid Waste Authority. I think you do a really terrific job. You also did a really great job of explaining all this to me a while back. I guess I'm not sure that we should keep the rates the same. I don't like the fact that we went for 14 years without any rate increase. I kind of prefer if things tick up more slowly rather than stay the same for a long time and then tick up by more. So I wonder what you think about the possibility that we, instead of leaving it exactly the same for 15 years at a time, that we instead keep things to some extent keeping pace with inflation.
Yeah,
So things are ticking up at the same rates that your costs are ticking up.
Understood. So the goal has always been to meet with the council and set the rates so it's stable for a contract term, at least the 5 years. The reason why those rates were so stable was really because the Solid Waste Authority's tipping fees have actually come down substantially over that term. So that's part of why we were able to let it ride, if you will, for lack of a better term. But again, the council ultimately, that is a council policy decision on setting those rates.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Beatrice, you have the floor next.
Yes, thank you so much for coming tonight. Just a couple questions.
Sure.
So when this bid comes out, is it, who actually awards the bid? Who picks the winner of the bid? The city? It's not the council, correct?
Right now, as it stands, we have an intermunicipal agreement with the city, and it's one of our contractual commitments to ultimately hire the contractor.
Okay,
Okay, so the current contract is between CWSI and the authority. So that's something, once we get to bid time, an extension of our agreement between our agreement with the city expires April 1st, 2023. So that's gonna be another matter on the table is, look, here's our analysis of the bids, where potentially rates have to go, and if you're all comfortable, we need you to extend with us, and then we can enter into a contract with that company.
okay, so
Yep.
basically, if you get 4 bids, you're the person who picks the bid. Does the bid automatically go, does it automatically have to be the highest bidder,
You mean the lowest bid?
or the lowest bidder? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's a 103, it's done under General Municipal Law 103, so
Okay.
generally there's no negotiation at that point. It goes to the lowest qualified bidder.
Okay, so us as the council, we may put terms in what we're looking for, but when the bid comes in, us as a council are not awarding the bid. That's up to you as it is right now, correct?
Correct.
Okay. My last question is,
But just to, I guess, expand that, just to build on that, say if the council wanted to go with an option where, okay, every city resident had a toter for recycling to cut down on litter, generally a program like that would be more expensive.
Right.
So that would be a
that would
council
be something
decision.
we would talk about. And
Let's
that was
go
gonna
with this
be,
option, but then we would award to the contractor, right?
that was gonna be my next question. So we, all of us here have taken numerous calls about debris in the city, and I know Marcus and his team does a great job. And what really has been to my attention a lot, we have bad weather here, especially like in the fall, the winter. Our recyclable containers, we have an open container for the most part, and it's out there, you get a storm, and the stuff is, you know, especially like in the inner cities and in downtown areas, like in my area where I live, if stuff is blowing on the ground, I pick it up the next day. If you're on a city street, for the most part, there's a lot of times it's blowing all over the place, and it's turns into, you know, litter and debris for everybody else. So is there any way of looking into like a different type container? Is that, I mean, obviously
Yeah,
that would,
that's when I meant,
Right.
when I brought up toter or carts.
right,
We'll actually solicit bids to look at a system like that.
right.
And then we can evaluate, we'll do a sensitivity analysis and we can look at all those proposals. But that would be a way, they're lidded carts, it's gonna control a lot of that litter.
Right, is that anything that you guys already have looked into in the past? I'm new to this,
Well,
so,
the last time we bid it, there's a big cost to those carts.
Right, I
So
imagine that.
You need to, determine how many carts are going to, what sector of building type, two-family, single-family. And then there's also an annual replacement and repair cost. So the last time we looked at it, the efficiencies from collection, we looked at it, the collection side, didn't offset all those additional
Right.
expenses. So that's why it wasn't considered. We plan to solicit bids on that again.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Williamson, you have the floor.
So, when you say, who regulates the tipping fee? So basically, when they go down, they go up? I mean, is that regulated by?
So we are a public, local solid, a local public authority. We're the Solid Waste Authority. We set our budget annually based on those tip fees. We're a user fee system, so we get no direct tax dollars from any entity other than an entity paying in through tipping fees. So we set our rates according to all of our expenses. And since we built and opened our own landfill, we've been essentially working towards a pay-as-you-go capital plan, and we've been able to lower our rates, and they're lower than they were back in 1991. And we were looking at, for 2022, at a minimum holding rates, if not possibly lowering rates again.
And so if the tipping fees goes down, will the blue bags ever go down, or do you see another rise
Well,
coming up?
here's the thing, is the disposal is only part of the whole equation. So roughly, there's 17,000 properties in the city of Utica, and believe it or not, the city generates around 17,000 tons. So if our tipping fee goes down $2, it only translates into a $34,000 annual savings. So the budget for the Utica sanitation, or the Utica Solid Waste Fund, is a little over $4 million. And I have some numbers in that packet. And roughly a little over $2 million comes from sales of blue bags, and the other little over $2 million comes from those user fees. And remember, those user fees apply to all properties, whether they're, a tax exempt entity or not.
So like all the, the shrubbery that the city generates, trees and stuff, are they able to dump those in your area?
Yeah, so that's you hit a key point. We have a compost site in North Utica, and the solid waste fund, so the combination of those blue bags and the user fees, a portion of that fund pays for all the green waste tipping fees for the city. So what it doesn't pay for is the DPW collection expense. So through our contract since 1996, the DPW always picks up green waste, but the solid waste fund covers the composting of that green waste, which is significantly less than garbage. Garbage is $62 a ton, green waste is $15 a ton.
So like all, there's like a bunch of trees somewhere, they're all logs and stuff, and could they be tipped there without a problem?
Yeah, they generally, we have a large horizontal tub grinder. So as long as it's sized where it'll go through our equipment, and generally everything that DPW brings down there, we can accommodate. They bring it right to North Utica and we process it. Yep.
Councilman
That's
Miola.
covered by the solid waste fund.
Councilman Miola, you have the floor.
Mr. Arabia, I just want to give you accolades. I'm looking at some of these numbers. This is in 27 years. The large bags is still the same, 27 years. The small bags went up 10 cents in 27 years. And 27 years, the single same family house, $14. You guys understand in 27 years that insurance, that's oil, that's gas, that's labor. That's phenomenal if you ask me. And two-family house went up $28 in 27 years. So I have to give you the highest accolades I ever seen. I'd like to thank you. You're doing a wonderful job.
Yeah, just one cautionary note into
Not on our back.
Councilwoman's friend's point. We've been bidding other communities like in the Valley, Ilion, Herkimer, Frankfurt, and the collection contracts are going up because of all the inflationary pressures we're seeing, the staffing issues. So again, we're gonna get out way ahead of this, but who knows what numbers we're gonna get.
You know how to take a compliment.
Councilperson Friend, you have the floor next.
I just want to return to Councilman Beatrice's point about the litter that happens when people put out the recycling. Of course, it's no longer the case that we have to be reliant on those orange square things, right? In fact, it's on us to buy whatever kind of container we want. After I met with you, I went out and bought myself a 32-gallon Rubbermaid roughneck thing, attach the top with a chain so that they don't come, and then put your big stickers on it. And I really love that system. I'm not trying to cram too much recycling into one little old cracked orange bucket. So, but I wonder how we could go about encouraging more of our residents.
So
How do
that's
we,
the-
to
that's
do
the new-
exactly that.
That's the education is, you can use the container of your choice. We provide a free sticker or decal. You can use as many as you want. We recommend you use a lid. But at the same time, there was no mandate to stop using the orange bins. It's amazing how much duct tape and items they keep those orange bins going, because we stopped handing them out a long time ago. But if the public should be encouraged to get a bigger bin, put a lid on it, and prevent some of that litter in the interim.
Could, could we mandate that, Commissioner Phillips?
So we've talked, and he told me, Mr. Rabia told me, that the appropriate time to address that would be in the next bidding contract. Our department met with Solid Waste. We meet with Solid Waste to discuss what we're seeing, and one of the problems is recyclables are improperly stored. Even when people buy their own containers, they're improperly stored. So that's why we suggested maybe we get the bigger closed bins, but there's a fee. So he said the time to discuss this would be when he comes in front of you guys and talks about the new contract. And might I add, anything that he does well is due to his bloodline. He's my cousin. So, but no, we have those conversations. Us and Solid Waste are in touch every single day. And we got to do a better job with recycling.
What it is, set out is specified in the code.
Yeah.
So ultimately, if that was something the council wanted to do, you could alter that code. I know the whole team's here.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Miola, this will be the last time.
Nope, I'm all set.
You're
Thank
all
you very
set?
much.
All right. All right, so thank you so much, Mr. Arabia.
Thank you for getting me on, and feel free to email me or send me your thoughts, and we'll keep the conversation going.
No problem. All right, moving forward, we are going to start our regularly scheduled pre-conference meeting. This will be for September 22nd, 2021. We'll start off with resolution number 1, the authorization of the sale of wine and beer to FX Matt Brewery Company. This is for the Boilermaker After Party, Sunday, October 10th, 2021, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Everyone good with that one?
From 8
Yeah. Ordinance number 6. It's a transfer of funds from 2020-2021 fiscal year from A58170-402, street cleaning, other supplies, in the amount of $94,000 to A55132-203, DPW garage, capital outlay, in the amount of $94,000. Any questions? Next is resolution number 7, resolution to commission a housing study for the city of Utica, New York. Councilman Moody, would you like to discuss this?
Delvin is just fine. Housing has been one of the things that has been on my radar for some time. It's something that I care passionately about. In particular, to look at how we might increase or see where we are when it comes to middle-income housing options, not just affordable housing. All of us hear about the potential infrastructure package that might be coming down the pipe and all of these things. And so I want to look at a study to look at housing, see where we are, see where we need points of improvement, see what housing stock we actually have, home ownership, affordable housing, middle-income housing options. We're developing all of these housing developments in the downtown area. And so I just want to see where we are as a city when it comes to housing. It is not a plan. It is not an answer, but it is just to have the data to figure out where we are. So we don't have any, from what I can ascertain, we don't have any legal jurisdiction to compel the administration or departments to do anything, but this is my request of my colleagues to at least put this resolution to say we would like to commission a housing study and to get this done for the city.
So I just have a couple questions first.
Absolutely.
Who will be funding it? And it says that it should be done in 9 months. How do you envision that happening?
Yeah, consultants to commission the study, as I'm sure the department has a way to do that. I do think that the city should put funding toward it, but I am also been in conversation with other nonprofits who would be willing to write the grants to get this done as well. I won't name their names, but other
No, that's
nonprofits
enough.
who are willing to support that as well.
Thank you. Councilman Williamson, you have the floor.
I got a question. Municipal Housing Authority, have they been involved in
Can you turn
this? Municipal Housing Authority, have you contacted them? Because they probably already have this done, I would assume.
They don't have an up-to-date housing study.
When was the last time they did one?
From what I've contained, the referral administration is what I've come to. Yeah.
Hey, Mary.
Councilman Lomedico, you have the floor.
I've been thinking about that a little, you know, because I grew up in East Utica, near the Cornhill area. And there was a time when all those were middle-class housing. So I'm thinking possibly if we could go to a portion of Cornhill, portion of East Utica, portion of West Utica, and designate that middle-class housing and work with the actual tenants in that area, we're sort of killing two birds with one stone, bringing that, you know, sort of 4, 5, or 10 block area where we could work with the tenants, have them bring that housing up to a middle housing, and put some stipulations on revenue, how much they're bringing in, and the type of people they're bringing in there. You know, I don't think we got to reinvent the wheel. I think we just got to maybe take a look at what we have right now and how we could repurpose it and bring it back to the way it was. It's the only way, you know, we're going to really get the city turned over again in some of those areas here. So I think that's one of the things that we could be looking at. And you know, if we could designate, just like, you know, we designate green zone, designate this zone. You know, if we had the money to with the tenants and we could get a 2 or 3 block area initially, and then, you know what, if that works out, things like that start growing, and the area starts improving, and then you'll see a real turnaround of the area if we could do it. I'm not sure if it's possible, but I just think that's a great idea, reinvesting in an area where, you know, it's starting to go back, it's starting to fall through, bring it back up, work with the tenants, and fix them houses up and try to bring in some middle-class people. But those particular apartments have to be good enough for someone like yourself or myself would want to move in there. Mm-hmm. So that's an idea we could take a look at. Maybe you could bring that to some of the people you're working with.
Yeah. So absolutely. And so what this is simply calling for a study to do that. Now it does have a time frame of 9 months, and so I think if that is too short of a time with the commissioner, I'm flexible on that. But I did want to put a time there to in some way reiterate the importance of it. However, this is just calling for the study to be done and some parameters around some of the things that we might look at in order to do that.
Councilman Williamson, you have the floor.
So, Brian, I mean, this is probably down your range a little bit because you saw all the vacant properties.
Yeah, and
everything
actually,
else. So what I'm trying to get at, a lot of those properties in Cornhill and West Utica, you can't rebuild on them. That's why you don't put new buildings in there because of the water table, or for something with codes, you can't build on them. Like West Street, one side's all built up, the other side's not. It's all empty lots because you can't build on them, correct?
Yeah, and the mayor agrees with Councilman Moody that that a housing needs assessment needs to be done. He asked me to put together a request for proposals, which I am in the process of finalizing. Board of Contract and Supply is actually expected tomorrow to authorize release of the RFP, and we're asking for proposals to be back by October 21st. And we have set aside funding through the American Rescue Plan Act for this study. So
Councilperson Friend,
we're actually moving forward.
you have the floor.
I just want to say I think this is a great idea. I think we should always, and I've said sort of similar things in the past, we should always be driven by data. This is going to give us a general, all-encompassing data for the entire city, not just for portions of it. I think that's really important. Mr. Moody said this hadn't been done since Mayor Raffaro's administration, an overall encompassing view. I think this is a great idea. I'm all in favor of this. I would like to make some friendly edits just to the first sentence. I would say with an influx of new residents and businesses, and just and then change the thus to a this. So whereas the city of Utica is a growing and thriving city with an influx of new residents and businesses, and this population has significantly increased. I see that as a friendly amendment. I hope it's taken as such, and I think this is a great idea.
So all this will do to the commissioner's point is it will simply ask that the plan include those points of A, B, C, and D. It is not a compelling thing, but it is basically a resolution saying to include these things in your study. I was prepared to put it in committee, but I think given where the commissioner is now, to simply say when you do your study to include these components, I think would be received and again, in addition to the work that they're doing.
One thing I'd like to add, this is kind of my area of expertise. It's what I do in my everyday life. And I represent 3 different buildings that I manage with properties. And right now we have a waiting list until December, which is wonderful and great. And it shows that Utica is definitely up and coming and there is a need for housing. So that's what I'd like to add. Okay, moving on. Local law establishing a temporary moratorium on convenience stores and smoke shop in the city of Utica. Introductory local law number 2 of 2021. Judge, would you like to go through this one? Can you hand him your microphone?
May I have a substitute microphone?
Judge, could you go over to that microphone and talk?
He has a condenser.
Oh, okay.
So he's here.
It work?
Yeah, it works. Oh,
Okay.
just.
I wanted to know that Councilman Moody brought up the subject the last time concerning a place in this district, which I think that Ms. DeGiorgio has completely explained what that was all about. And there are legal issues in that matter, and that preceded our ordinance. We have an ordinance in, that we have done. However, look at this. The research that was done by Mr. Georgia, and after we consulted on this, and I don't want Chris to be redundant, Ms. Giorgio, seeing Mr. Lawrence here, she is a wonderful source because she has access to computers and data that I don't have, so she shares it with me. And I'm very happy that they made such a fine appointment of her. The State Department, Executive Department, they suggested that we do a local law because of the more authoritative position you have with a local law. Because whenever you do something restricting something, if there is an eventual lawsuit, there were certain things you have to have in the local law about why you were doing it, your justification. And if you have a local law, as they suggest, in addition to that, there must be a public hearing because the mayor has a public hearing. So in other words, rather than an ordinance, by having a local law, the people who are affected by this, if they wish to express their opinion about it, they will get that opportunity when the mayor has it before them. So that all you have to do tonight is lay it on the table and consider it at the next meeting, and if you adopt it, and the mayor will have to have a public hearing, and I think that you have done all that you have to do under the legal parameters, and we can't make and do not make any promises that even this would stand, but I think that after her research and after us discussing it, discussed this with Mr. Brown, and he agrees with that group, and I decided to do a local law rather than the proposed ordinance. Rather than amended it, I wanted to do it in a fashion I think is much safer for us as a legal body legislative body to do it that way. And that's why I came down here yesterday to do that local law. And I also gave you a memo, as requested under our statute, that it's not so much the urgency as well as the fact that we've already done something. And I think when you've done something just like you brought, you should correct it as soon as possible. So the other matter that we had, which was adopted, is still an ordinance is adopted, but you'll see the local law. Once this is adopted in the manner provided by law, that will be dismissed. Yes, sir.
Councilperson Friend has the floor first.
I just have a couple of very quick questions. So in the second whereas paragraph, what is it, when it says application of these two entities, what are the entities to which are being referred there?
There must be a typo there. Initially, the piece of legislation said convenience stores and smoke shops. They neglected to include neighborhood retail. That's what I'm referring with that.
So the
I believe
entities refer to those, so it needs to be 1, 2, 3 entities.
Yes, but the current ordinance only applies to 2. So that was one of the changes that was made as we added neighborhood retail.
Okay, so we just need to amend we need to turn the 2 into a 3,
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
And then the other one, is councilmanic a word?
Yeah.
What is, I've never heard that before. So is it the adjective version of?
I'll send it to what you have.
Cool. Excellent. Because it sounds kind of manic, and I was wondering, I was like, council manic. Council, I mean, I know I get a little council manic from time to time.
Councilman Moody, you have the floor.
That is the compliment it's intended to be, correct, Mr. Oneida?
Yeah, I have
100%.
just
Moving
a few
on.
questions. With regard to, I know what we said, neighborhood retail stores and convenience stores. To me, I don't know if that language is consistent with is that consistent with the code? Because I thought it was neighborhood convenience stores.
No. Currently, as the code is written, when I reviewed it, it just defines convenience and gas stations.
Right.
And then smoke shops. There is a separate definition of neighborhood retail, but that was not included in the old
So are we extending this moratorium to convenience stores?
It applies to convenience stores, neighborhood retail stores, and smoke shops. We're extending it to the neighborhood retail, which is what you're actually targeting, or you're having issues with.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So without,
Existing law. We're not doing that.
so
We're not repealing anything. We're just doing a moratorium. And those things which are existing law, which may have to be looked at, restudy of the zoning laws that you have adopted, that's what this is all about.
I got that, Judge.
So if I could
Council has the floor.
So if I could just clarify the changes that were made to the old one that you had passed in June.
Right.
I added, the Department of Codes will also be added. I added in any other appropriate city agency. I added permit, so they can't issue a permit as well as permission. I added neighborhood retail because that was not included, and that's specifically who we're having problems with. It's not necessarily with our definition of convenience stores as per the code. And then I added regardless of any current zoning classifications, and I made it very clear that it's for a specified period of 6 months. Those were the changes that were added based on the old thing. I just felt, based on reading it and knowing the council's intent, things needed to be clarified a little bit.
And no one delved in it, just a clarification. So the issue was convenience store has a specific definition, and sometimes they do little things to get outside of that definition. So neighborhood retail would be broader to allow us to address those problems too.
Very excellent job.
Councilman Williamson, you have the floor now.
I'm sorry. No. You gotta raise your hand.
Make eye contact with me. I'll take care of you.
Go ahead, Jack. I'll go next.
Councilman Williamson is yielding the floor to Councilman Lemetico.
Since we're all bringing this up, we've all discussed it in the past. As a common council, I think this is a perfect time to put a time when these places close without gas pumps. And do and see how this goes with the police and everything else, and see, because I guess we have a lot of issues. These places stay open on the corners till all hours of the night, 2 or 3, whatever. And I know we discussed it about bringing that back down to closing at a certain time in the evening during the week and on the weekends. I think this is a perfect time to do more, so we can actually do a study like you know, see if this really works, but I think this is the time to do the moratorium with them closing down at a specific hour at night, because according to the police chief and everybody else who's here over the past, they always stated that they have a lot of issues after midnight at these places. So,
I
this,
think council explained that we couldn't do that.
We couldn't,
That we couldn't
we
limit.
can't.
We cannot do that.
we
In
can't,
the moratorium.
we
May I
cannot do
request
that.
In
the floor
general.
real
Not
quick?
the moratorium is a moratorium.
Correct.
It's different.
Correct.
Is that another local law?
Would that be another
Councilman
local law by
Lomedico?
itself?
I didn't know
That would have to be some, yeah, it would have to be some other separate ordinance or local law.
that. It would be a legal law, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Well, to put it into the moratorium, and I don't know as far as,
No, the legality of it in general. I thought it was.
Let her do the research on it, Mark. and see.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a perfect time. I mean, we'll lay this on the law, I mean, get this going, yes. But at the same time, we've been talking about bringing these people down, you know, not bringing them down, but shutting them down at a decent hour instead of, you know, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and the police are constantly using assets to go to these shops all the time in the middle of the night, and because they're open.
It's something we can look at during the 6-month moratorium.
Council-
Remember,
Council-
this is just you get a motion to table it, that's all we do tonight.
Yep.
And again, I want to emphasize, and the Corporation Council can correct me, this is not a zoning ordinance. So don't confuse it with a zoning ordinance. The whole idea of this is to give you an opportunity to relook at revisit the zoning ordinances. And a lot of things that have come to your mind since we've adopted these matters, if you want to revise them, it's after you've looked at them long enough, so that we don't keep amending the zoning law or changing it over and over, and it just confuses everybody. Just leave it for what it is. It's a moratorium that we think might pass the muster even legally. And that is because the Corporation Counsel's office and Mr. Giorgio and Charlie Brown and I, this is the best we can do at this point, answering your questions. I would
Thank you,
urge
Judge.
to lay it on the table and discuss it further if you have to.
Council President, do you still need the
Thank
floor?
you.
No, I think the judge and Brian Thomas and Mr. Giorgio, went through what I was gonna go through.
Councilperson Friend, you have the floor.
Super quickly, I just want to say, I agree with Mr. Williamson that this would be a good time to, when we, get past this moratorium, we should revisit that question. I would like at the same time to visit the question of how brightly lit these stores are, because with the new LED rope lighting, it's like daylight in front of those stores at night, and I think that that's really unfair to the residences and other businesses surrounding them. The one on Sunset, it's like daylight out there. The one on Genesee, both of the ones in South Utica, are far too bright at night. And I think we ought to see whether we could regulate the amount of lumens that a store is allowed. I don't know, something like that.
Thank you. Moving forward, ordinance number 2, approving this is for the sale of the Kennedy parking garage in the amount of $1.5 million to construct a hotel to I can't find the name. Oh, Downtown Utica Development LLC. Any questions? Moving on. Next is the sale of 125 Thomas Street in the amount of $8,000 to Serafin Vasquez Martinez. Any questions? Next is the corresponding ordinance for 124 Thomas Street. Next is the ordinance number 8, the sale of 315-317 Court Street to Michael Pezzolinella in the amount of $400,000. Next is ordinance number 10, the sale of 1,125 Summit Place in the amount of $1,500. This will be to SoCo 2 LLC. Next will be the sale of 707, 709, 319.53-4-39 Mohawk Street, and 703, 705, 707, 711 Blandina Street This will be to Asmir Surmovic in the amount of $7,000.
Can we back up? I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, let me quick to ordinance 10.
Sure.
This is a parking next to a multiple dwelling unit, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
We don't regulate any security requirements. Now, I had a camera surveillance I was working on with Jack and the judge a few months ago. But with these type of properties becoming parking, we don't regulate any sense of, or require any sense of security. They make a parking lot, and God forbid anything happens a few months from now. My question is, do we require any sense of security in these type of parking lots
No.
next to multiple dwelling units?
No.
It's the owner's responsibility to insure it,
Yep.
pave it, clean it, and make sure anybody gets hurt on it.
That's your problem.
Alvin, before we sell that, any of these buildings, bottom myself behind, they're instructed what they need to do. And so, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, we're asking, in this particular case, it's not a parking lot yet. His plan is to consolidate the parcels, because I think he's looking to sell the building. So it's the next owner that would make any of those potential renovations. But your point is taken in that, look, if we know something's gonna be a parking lot, should there be a set of ordinance or regulations that don't currently exist there? You know, that's not up to me, that's up to you.
And I think that's the next step of doing that.
Right. It's legislative.
I'm good, I just want that.
Going back to ordinance number 12, any questions regarding the $7,000 sale to Asmir Surmovic? Next is ordinance 14, 742 J Street, in the amount of $5,000 to Bajor Schmidt. Next is ordinance 16, 710 Nicholas Street, in the amount of $8,000 to Frank Katrup. Next is ordinance number 18 for the sale of 501 Square Street and 1,315 Taylor Avenue to Davis Rodriguez in the amount of $30,000. Next is resolution number 2, calling for a public hearing for the sale of 301 Mortimer Street and 1,116 Nielsen Street to Carlos Martinez in the amount of $500. The corresponding ordinance. Next is resolution number 4, the sale of 1,441 Sunset Ave for a primary residence to Alessandra Hernandez in the amount of $31,500. The corresponding ordinance. And that will complete the regularly scheduled agenda. Does anyone want to talk about anything that's in committee that they'd like to bring out this evening?
I'd just like to bring out, ordinance number 5, residency waiver for electrician.
Does the codes department want to speak on this, or the necessity, time urgency?
Just quick, I'll be quick, because we've talked about this issue ad nauseum, and at this point, you know, it is where it is. The board, we got 2 applicants in 2 years, did a lot of sale. The board thought this person was uniquely qualified to do the job. And beyond, I think we've talked a lot about permitting. I think beyond the permitting, one of the things that kind of gets overlooked is the service to our residents. There's been a couple municipalities that flooded, right? And National Grid, as they will, turn their power off. They have to get an electrical inspection to get their power turned back on. They have to pay an electrical inspector to come to inspect their property, charge them whatever they charge, and turn it back on, even if there's nothing wrong with it. So having a guy in-house to use these kind of services for our residents is beyond, you know, whatever permit fees or revenue we're gonna make.
Sounds to me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Next, I'd like to hand the floor over to Council President Galimi. He has a guest, the Swan Humane Society.
Thank you. We're going to invite up Anita Vitullo and Evan Rossi to come speak on behalf of Anita's Stevens Swan Humane Society. I'm just going to make my way to the laptop. You could all come up. So what we can do is, and then you can speak. Okay? Yeah.
I don't know if it's on yet. Is your microphone on?
That's fine.
Is it on?
All right. Hang on just 1 second, Robin. Sorry. All right, so there's your PowerPoint. What's that right here? All right, so we can leave that there for now. All right, so before you begin, I just wanted to address the council for a second. We all received an email with different communications regarding the different services that the Stevens Swan Humane Society has done in Utica over the last year. Everyone received those emails and gone over them before we start? All right, thank you. All right, so Evan's going to begin, and they're going to discuss these services that have been rendered. So you have the floor.
All right. Well,
Thanks.
Hello again.
right.
My name's Evan Rossi. I'm the attorney for the Stephen Swan Humane Society, which has been rebranded Anita's Stephen Swan Humane Society after its benefactor, my client Anita Vitullo, who's standing here beside me. Laura DeStephanis is another very important part of our team, and she's there working the PowerPoint slides. I'm here following up on a letter I'd sent to the Common Council a couple months ago in regard to the American Rescue Plan Act, also known as ARPA, which was passed by President Biden on March 11th, 2021. And it provides funding from municipalities across New York State to a whole host of different parts of the community, including those nonprofits performing government services, which the Stephen Swans is a nonprofit and is performing government services. So we're here to ask the Common Council's help to receive a portion of the ARPA funding to help us recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, which caused a huge shortfall in donations, as well as help to address the underlying shortfalls that have occurred over a span of many years at Stephen Swans. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Anita. Councilman.
Mr. Ross, it's very nice to meet you. I know we spoke on the phone
Yeah.
several times.
Yeah, sir.
And you know what my biggest concern is. I would love to sit
So-
here and give you every bit of money that we could possibly get you. But I'd like your partnership in helping us with the severe problems that we have with feral cats and other cats in the area.
Yeah.
And I know we talked, you were gonna get back to me, I didn't hear anything. I just wanna
That's-
bring that up to you. And I believe my colleagues all feel the same way that I feel. You guys do a wonderful job. I'm an animal lover. I can't say enough about the services you do. But in my 2 years as a councilman, not quite 2 years yet, but that's probably one of my biggest shortcomings that I feel that I let the people down who have severe problems and I have nowhere to turn. So I would love to help you guys, and I'm hoping I can get your word to help us too.
Councilman Beatrice. Just so the council's aware, this is going to work just like a normal guest presentation. We are going to hear from the council guests, and then in their entirety. We won't. Yes, but right. But I'm just informing the council that's we aren't going to open the floor at this time. So, thank you.
Rest assured, I've come prepared with a resolution for you, and you'll see that. Thank you all for giving us this audience. I really appreciate your work in city government. Know you're very busy, and appreciate our alliance with the city of Utica that's decades old. So we'll get right to the presentation. I don't know if you'll all be able to see it up on the screen. But on the cover there, if you go back, Laura, one slide, that's Zena. She's a resident at Stephen Swan Humane Society. And we are here in conjunction with a request for the American Rescue Plan Act. We looked at the law, and it does provide for nonprofits. And we're a unique nonprofit in the city of Utica in that we provide a mandated service for the city of Utica they're not able to provide for themselves concerning stray dogs. So our mission is to alleviate animal suffering by providing shelter and care for abandoned and abused animals, to promote the human-animal bond through adoptions, and reduce the companion animal population with spay-neuter services, one of your concerns. So we help about 1,500 animals a year. We provide 800 plus low-cost adoptions every year. The average cost to care for each animal is $650, and our annual operating cost averages $1.3 million. A little bit of background. We are a 111-year-old nonprofit organizations providing services for the entirety of Oneida County. We do not receive any state or federal funding. It's amazing that over $1 million operation has operated consecutively for 111 years, solely based on the generosity of the community and a stipend from the city of Utica. The city of Utica is mandated by law, New York State Agricultural Market Section 114, to provide care for stray dogs. And this obligation is met through a contract with Anita Stephen Swan Humane Society. Some cities have their own shelters, their own staff, they care for their own stray animals. Many do not, and they contract with municipalities, and that's what we have with the city of Utica. So prior to 2020, Stephen Swan Humane Society received $60,000 from the city of Utica. At one point, we received 70, and it was decreased by 10,000. So imagine only $60,000. Now last year, it was increased to 120,000 because we came down, we showed our financials, exhibited our need, and I have to thank Heather Moa in this audience who helped us do that. Thank you, Heather. The City of Utica contract for stray dogs is insufficient to cover the associated costs for the animals. So I took and gave you a few examples of why. So in 2020, there were 1,086 animals rescued. The City of Utica animals, out of that 1,086 animals rescued, represented 76%. The total expenses to care for all of those animals was $973,349. 76% of that was $745,695. The Utica contract funding was $120,000 out of the $745,695 it cost us to care for the city of Utica dog. So the loss due to the Utica contract was $625,695. In 2019, I did a similar evaluation because 2020 was a pandemic year, and I thought best to go back prior to the pandemic to give you a realistic picture. And as you can see, it's just as bad. 1,606 animals rescued. City of Utica animals, 1,104, and the percent is 69% of total animals came from the City of Utica. Our total expenses at $850,424. 69% of that expense for the Utica animals was $586,793. Subtract the Utica contract funding because that year is when it was $60,000. So our loss due to the Utica contract was $526,793. So the rescue plan provides for COVID-associated losses. So if you can see, that's our shelter, and we It just put on an expansion edition. Well, it was planned prior to COVID. We didn't know we'd be hit with COVID. And so we went through with it and took a few years. But we're doing our best to maintain an aged facility, really insufficient, and the expansion has helped us. And one of the things is an operatory with 2 stations so we can facilitate more spay neuters. So I also delineated some of the COVID losses, and you can see the real impact for us, because we do a lot of hard work raising a lot of our own money, was because of the restrictions in COVID, we couldn't have public events. And so in 2019, pre-COVID fundraising was $343,364. In 2020, during COVID fundraising, it was $230,327. So 2020 versus 2019, we were at a loss of $113,307. 2021, $21,612, devastating for us because of COVID. So the difference between the 2019 pre-COVID and the 2021 during COVID was another loss of $321,752. So our COVID fundraising losses alone were $435,059. Add to that the mandates for personal protective equipment, another $16,642. Additional COVID payroll costs, another $19,524. And we were at a COVID expense loss of $471,225. And that does not count the remainder of 2021 COVID losses pending. So, Attorney Rossi wrote on our behalf. We examined it, and we felt that a request for $625,695 to supplement our COVID losses, let alone our prior financial condition to COVID, was a reasonable request. I realize that you are not empowered tonight to give us a yay or nay on that, and also I was informed that you're going to act in a collaborative effort with the administration on advising the use of these funds through the Rescue Act, and we appreciate your support. I wanted to present this to you, and we'll certainly give you a copy of this report, and hope that we can count, on your support when considering the distributions from the Rescue Plan Act. Any questions on that before I proceed to your other issue that was asked of us, if we have a resolution for? And that I do. Any questions regarding the Stephen Swan Humane Society or any of the information I presented? And again, we'll provide you with a copy of all of this.
Anita.
Yes.
You do have the other presentation, correct?
Yes.
All right, so our main meeting is scheduled to start at 7, which I'd like you to get through that other presentation as well.
Yes.
So we're going to make absolutely certain the council has both presentations and obviously your contact information. So
yes.
If we could do the other presentation now, that would be great.
Yes.
And hold questions at this time, just so they can
hold the
absorb
questions
everything.
on the first part.
Yes,
Great.
yes,
Okay.
Thanks.
Fine. Okay. So you have a problem in the city of Utica, and that's an overabundance of stray animals, both dogs and cats. I understand that, one of your main concern is the cats. It's an unchecked population. At least your stray dogs, you contract with us, and we pick them up, and we provide shelter and care for them. But the cats are unchecked. And as you can see, a population of animals unchecked goes wild, literally. Thus the term feral. So I studied a few years ago with consultants what is the perfect model of a spay-neuter program for a city, for a municipality. And what I found after that study is the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, a national organization known as ASPCA, has the best model. Spay Neuter Alliance program. I visited their clinics in Albany, Scotia, Buffalo, and a consultant I had working for me went to Raleigh, North Carolina, their headquarters. So we've put intensive research into this. So what is the ASPCA and why do we have confidence and faith in them to have follow their model for our city? Well, they're the first humane society established in 1866 in North America and still one of the largest today. They're founded on the belief that animals are entitled to kind and respectful treatment by humans and must be protected under law. And it's a donor-funded 501c3 not-for-profit organization with anti-cruelty programs throughout the United States. This spay neuter clinic model is only one of the many programs they have. And I want to say, with regards to point 2, in the belief that animals are entitled to kind and respectful treatment, this community is amazing in its support of this mission. And the Stephen Swan Humane Society, we have a very large following on our Facebook, on our website. We do a campaign every December, and in 30 days, you know, we raise almost $200,000, and the average gift is only $50. So that tells you that, you know, your constituents, your community believes in a kind of respectful community for animals. So a little bit about the ASPCA, and again, the arrow points to 47,000 spay-neuter surgeries performed. So this model is tried and true, and it lists its other programs there that they provide. So the ASPCA Spay-Neuter Alliance, it is the leading training and education program focusing on high-quality, high-volume spay-neuter. It's an effective tool to combat homelessness and needless euthanasia of dogs and cats. It's the foremost national spay-neuter clinic training program and national veterinary training and education program. There are 180 of these clinics across the United States. Advantages of high volume, low cost spay-neuter. Number of dogs and cats in Oneida County exceeds adoptable households. Many animals are abandoned by owners and end up at our Humane Society. Stray cats are not controlled by the city of Utica, and rampant breeding causes a community nuisance, a health hazard, and animal suffering. Many animals live in households that cannot afford veterinary care. Low cost or free spay and neuter is the only way to reach these segments of this population. A high volume, low cost spay and neuter program must be established to achieve the greatest, most sustainable impact on reducing the stray animal population in the city of Utica. Quite simply, there's no other way. So, I put together just a small outline of what does it cost to open up one of these clinics. So first of all, land, building, renovations. We would look to the city of Utica. Where do you have a piece of land that we could build on? If you don't have a piece of land we can build on, well then give us a building that exists and perhaps we can renovate it. I didn't put a price tag on that because I have no idea what you have available. So startup equipment estimated at $150,000. You'll need 2 veterinarians, $100,000 each, 1 clinic manager at $55,000, 2 vet techs at $42,000 each, 2 animal caregivers at $35,000 each, and 1 clinic support staff at $33,000. Now you're probably thinking, where does she think we're going to get this money? What I'm proposing to you is a public and private partnership. We have, my company, StaffWorks, established the StaffWorks Fund in 2005. All of the money is managed by the Community Foundation. We don't do any fundraising for the StaffWorks Fund. It is solely supported by the profits of my company, StaffWorks Incorporated. We have over $19 million under management at the Community Foundation. We provide, mainly our focus for the fund is direct care and services for at-risk animals. We also support people. and this throughout central and southern New York and Pennsylvania. We select those organizations based on where our branch offices are. I have 8 branch offices throughout central and southern New York and Pennsylvania. Wherever those branch offices are, we select nonprofit organizations to support with our profits we draw out of those communities. Since inception, the Staff Works Fund has donated $6.8 million to 57 organizations. Here's what we want to do for the city of Utica and your stray animal population. We want to explore a public and private City of Utica partnership to establish a high volume, low cost spay-neuter clinic. I don't see any other way out of your problem with your overabundance of animals in your city. And I wish there were another solution, because it certainly would be easier than trapping and spaying and neutering and supporting a clinic. But quite frankly, no one in the United States has found another solution to it. So that's what I'm proposing this evening. And I responded to your request regarding that. I hadn't planned on proposing that, but since you raised the issue and what can we do, and the second part of this presentation, the spay-neuter clinic, really wouldn't be part and parcel of the Stephen Swan Humane Society, because they don't have the facility, they don't have the funding, they don't have the staff to really support this program. Now, eventually, once we get it up and going, perhaps in the future, they can take it over. But for now, it would be a public-private partnership that I would assist with and perhaps raise other funds for. And it would have it would be a separate nonprofit run by a board of directors, of which you could have some seats on it if you like, if you went into this partnership. So I hope I've addressed your concerns about your animal overpopulation. And I don't know, Common Council President Galimi, if you want questions now or later on this topic.
Actually, so this meeting, we're still in the pre-meeting conference at this point. We haven't started our main meeting, so this is still the majority leader's meeting. However, what I would suggest at this time, we felt it was imperative to bring you in to present this face-to-face with the council. But obviously this subject matter deserves much more time back and forth.
This is just a brief overview.
So at this time, I'm not going to request that the council pose any questions, and that if the council would like to contact you, as some of them suggested, and possibly have a committee meeting and discuss this further, that would be much more fruitful to actually discuss that. But this has been a very good presentation, and something that was at the feet of the council a couple of years ago, and we were looking for solutions for. So thank you for your time. Seriously. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Majority Leader?
I'd just like to adjourn the meeting at this point.
Okay. All right. So we're going to begin the main meeting in a short 3 minutes. We have a huge agenda this evening. September 22nd, 2021. I'm going to call this meeting of the City of Utica Common Council to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for the deceased members of the council. First order of business this evening, as usual, are the minutes from the previous meeting.
I'd like to move that we waive the reading of the minutes, Mr. President.
We have a second from Miola. Any opposed to that? No one's opposed. All right, thank you. All right, public hearing will be the first order of business this evening. We have a public hearing on the sale of the following properties. Kennedy Parking Garage for $1.5 million, 125 Thomas Street for $8,000, 124 Thomas Street for $30,000, 315 to 317 Court Street for $400,000, 1125 Summit Place for $1,500, 707, 709, 319.53-4-39 Mohawk Street, and 703, 705, 707, 711 Blandina Street for $7,000. 742 J Street for $5,000, 710 Nichols Street for $8,000, and 501 Square Street and 1315 Taylor Avenue for $30,000. I believe there are people signed up to speak on behalf of some of these properties. The first speaker this evening is Bob Schofield. If you can come forward. Thank you. And this is the public hearing, not public comment. If you did sign up for public comment, that will be further into the meeting. Thank you. Mr. Schofield, if you could just please state your name for the record and the property you're speaking on, and then you may begin. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Bob Schofield, Executive Vice President with the Mohawk Valley Health System. It's nice to see you all again. It's been a long time. Got a couple of documents I'm going to reference if you don't mind me just handing them over. Oops. Yeah, if you would like. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I know your meeting started late, President. I will do my best to get my comments as quickly as possible.
Thank you. We're doing all right, though.
I'm here tonight to talk about the sale of the Kennedy Garage. First and foremost, I want to make it clear we're not here to support nor oppose the sale of the garage. We're here to let you know there are a few things we think you should consider as you look at the sale of the garage and the future development down the road. So if many of you may realize that maintaining a garage is an expensive operation. We have one at St. Elizabeth. I bet if we could find someone that would operate that garage and do it for us over time, we certainly would have done so. But instead, we decided to build a new hospital and lease space in garages instead. For those of you who may not recall, the Kennedy Garage contains two properties. One, the old Mohawk Medical Equipment Building, which we now own, and the other being the Kennedy Garage. The northern side of the building is where the old Mohawk Hospital Equipment Building used to be. It now contains our central utility plant. That's where we've made a $30 million investment in the utility structure for the new Wynn Hospital. In 2017, the City of Utica, Oneida County, and MVHS signed a memorandum of understanding that included rights to MVHS for parking in the Kennedy Garage. The sale of that garage does call this into question and is a concern of ours. With the purchase of the Mohawk Medical Equipment Building, which is now our central utility plant, we did have permanent easement rights to not only airspace, and I think that's one of the documents, the Google document that I sent around, but also pedestrian and vehicle entrance to the south side of the building, which is off the Ed Hanna Park. So I think it's important to remember that as we think of future development in that space. You know, these factors in terms of what the city plans to partner with a private developer for development of the garage and the space around it, we believe deserves clear and frequent conversation with Mohawk Valley Health System. Now in 2019, I came to this group in addition to the planning board and presented that site plan you have in front of you. That site plan points out a medical campus. That's what we talked about all along. A campus that would include our new Wynn Hospital, our central utility plant, parking, and then a future medical office building. On the south side of our campus, there's a location referenced as Lot C. That Lot C was intended and clearly communicated back in 2019 to be parking not for the Wynn Hospital, but rather for the development of a private developer medical office building that would support the Mohawk Valley Health System's hospital-based physicians and outpatient services. 411 Columbia Street recently was, an offer was placed by one of the individuals interested in purchasing the garage. Again, smack dab in the middle of that location where that medical office building was intended to be, and the associated parking. That caused a significant question to us, the future of that project. It's a very big concern for us in order to deliver the level of health care you all expect and demand from us at MVHS. So early on, the decision to build a hospital downtown wasn't always a popular one. I went to an awful lot of meetings with an awful lot of people in this room and some of your predecessors as well. Earlier on, there was concern, as I made the argument, a hospital downtown was going to drive additional businesses downtown. Well, I think as of today, I think that's been borne out to be the case. So why would I be opposed to the fact of the sale of a garage and the development of another medical office building? We're not. But we believe it shouldn't be done to encumber the progress that the medical system, health system plans to have for our own campus. We committed to community communication when we decided to bring our hospital and our 2,500 employees downtown. I've done that. We've done that. I've gone to countless meetings with community members. I've come to meetings with people here in this room. We've activated social media regularly. We release 2 times a week public information about our hospital project. I have personally invited every single person in this room to be a part of the project, to come down to hear what's going on, to receive updates. We meet very regularly with the city and its staff to talk about the project, and we will continue to do so. But in return, we want that same level of communication with us as we are developing a $600 million hospital campus in downtown Utica that now seems to be somewhat in jeopardy because of loss of parking and loss of a location for our medical office building. So simply said, are we opposed? No. But we are asking you to take into consideration some of the things we said tonight to make sure that in the future that we do not lose our ability to park for our employees, your families when you come to visit, as well as our patients, and the fact that our doctors will have a place to practice in a medical office building across the street. Windshield time is a big loss to medical staff who have to drive across town to come to the hospital. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Licata, you are also here. You obviously did participate in the previous public hearing for this property, which was deemed invalid due to a scheduling issue in the advertisement, but you're welcome to respond and or reiterate anything at this time before the public hearing is closed.
Thank you, members of the council. Appreciate your time. Thanks, Bob. This did get published in the OD, right?
This time, yes.
We are
yeah,
okay.
We're a
Just
go.
want to make sure
Yeah.
that we're still, all right, so we're ready to go. I appreciate Bob's comments and the openness for communication and conversation. Bowers Development has maintained all along, we're happy to speak with anybody who has any interest relative to the parking, relative to any other developments we have in the area. So if an open line of communication is available to us, we're more than happy to take that. We agree with everything Bob had said. A medical office building is one of our intentions for that site, and the parking in order to provide access to the patients, their family, people who work at the hospital is our primary concern. So there isn't anything that he has asserted that we would disagree with. Patient care is the most important thing. Our intention on that site is a 150,000 square foot medical office building. So we're more than happy to have that conversation at any time. Any questions? Sure.
Actually, before we do that, you mentioned a medical office building. Is that referring to the Kennedy parking garage or something else?
No, that's the 411 Columbia Street that Bob cited.
All right, so
I know
this
that's
public
not here.
hearing is specifically for the parking garage, so any discussion of other properties should be done outside the scope
Agreed.
of this public hearing.
Without a doubt, it was just brought up. I wanted to
All
address
right,
it.
thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
So I just was looking at this map, and you got the two lines on it. You got a red line and a blue line. Well, I'm assuming to
This-
the left of the blue line is the portion that you own?
That's correct. The blue line to Columbia Street is
Right.
a portion of the property that MVHS currently owns, which was previously the Mohawk
Right.
Medical.
Hey, have you concerned building your own medical arts building on that portion of the property? Okay,
While I'm
just
tr-
wondering.
All right,
Thank
thank you.
you.
I was attempting to be a little bit respectful to your question because it's important. This is a big purchase here, but this is a public hearing. There will be no privilege of the floor during a public hearing. Mr. Licata, you have the floor until you're done. Thank you.
All right. Then,
All right.
and the only other part is, we're not going to impact either the air rights or the central utility plant of the hospital. Our power comes from another source, and we've done zero lot line developments more than once, so it's not a problem.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much for your time. Is there anyone else in the room that that would like to speak on any of the other properties? Any of the other properties? Are you here to speak on a property? Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Public hearing is now closed. We're going to move on to the actual legislation for those. Now, the first two pieces, and I've gone over this with Judge Garamone, what we're going to do for Ordinance 2, Ordinance 4, which is the sale of Kennedy Parking Garage and the sale of 125 Thomas Street, I'd like to offer that the council removes them from committee, but then makes a motion to reconsider, because we did already consider that matter prior to the vote. Okay? And that's motion to reconsider. Yes. The sale of those. Yeah. All right. So, Councilman Beatrice, do you have something you'd like to say from the floor, or can I move on? Okay. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to call for a motion to pull Ordinance 2, the sale of Kennedy Parking Garage to Downtown Utica Development LLC for $1.5 million from committee. We have a motion from Miola. We have a second from Beatrice. Any opposed to pulling that from committee? And remember, Councilman DeBrango is on the call here with us, although he's not sitting there. Yes, he's been on. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Okay, is there a motion to reconsider this property? All right, we have a motion to reconsider from Miola. Is there a second? We have a second from Beatrice. Any opposed? Okay, the vote for Ordinance 2, the sale of Kennedy Parking Garage to Downtown Utica Development LLC for $1.5 million is on the floor. I'll be calling for Councilman DeBrango's vote verbally. Councilman DeBrango? Okay. Call the vote.
9 yeas adopted.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion for Ordinance 4, sale of 125 Thomas Street to Serafin Vasquez Martinez for $8,000? We have a motion from Miola, second from McNeil. Any opposed to pulling that from committee? It's on the floor. And per the judge's recommendation, is there a motion to reconsider this piece? All right. We have a second from Beatrice on that. Thank you. DeBrango actually seconded that. We'll give him that one since he's on here, right? Any opposed to the reconsideration? Your votes on the legislation.
Yes. 9 yeas adopted.
Thank you very much. Next, is there a motion to pull Ordinance 6, sale of 124 Thomas Street to Patricio Muelo for $30,000 from committee? We have a motion from McNeil, second from Moody. Any opposed to pulling that from committee? Your votes.
Nine yeas adopted.
Is there a motion to pull Ordinance 8, the sale of 315 to 317 Court Street to Michael Pezzalinella for $400,000 from committee? We have a motion from Miola, second from Lametico. Any opposed? All right, it's out on the floor for a vote.
Mr. President, I'd like to recuse myself from this vote as it is my family.
All right. Hang on just 1 second. Okay. Your votes.
8 yeas adopted.
Actually, that's not 8 years adopted.
7 yeas adopted, 1 recused.
It's 6.
5, 6, and DeBrango. And DeBrango.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's
7.
so
Yep.
it's 7. Yeah, that's yeah, we're good. Thank you, Deputy Clerk. Ordinance 10. The sale of 1125 Summit Place to SoCo 2 LLC for $1,500. We have a motion from Miola, second from McNeil. Pull it out of committee. No one's opposed. It's on the floor for a vote. Call.
9 A's adopted.
Thank you. Ordinance 12, sale of 707, 709, 319.53-4-319 Mohawk, or 39 Mohawk Street, and 703, 705, 707, 711 Blandina Street to Esmir Sarimovich for $7,000. We have a motion from Miola to pull from committee, second from Moody. Any opposed to pulling that from committee? Your votes.
9 A's adopted.
Thank you. Ordinance 14, sale of 742 J Street to Bachro Smajic for $5,000. Motion to pull. Okay, with Miola. Second from McNeil. Any opposed? Ordinance 14 is on the floor for a vote.
9 A's adopted.
Ordinance 16, sale of 710 Nichols Street to Frank Troop for $8,000. Motion from Miola. Second from Burmaster. Any opposed pulling that from committee? All right, your votes.
9 A's adopted.
Thank you very much. Councilman DeBrango, thank you for your participation. Ordinance 18, sale of 501 Square Street and 1315 Taylor Avenue to Dacis Rodriguez for $30,000. Motion from Miola to pull from committee. Second from Burmaster. Any opposed? Okay, it's out on the floor. Your votes.
9 A's adopted.
Okay, we're done with the public hearing this evening. We're on to the new properties, Resolutions 2, Ordinance 3, Resolution 4, and Ordinance 5 from the Urban Renewal Authority. Does the council have an issue with me going through the urban renewal properties prior to remonstrances? Thank you. Okay, Resolution 2, calling for a public hearing on the sale of 301 Mortimer Street and 1116 Nielsen Street to Carlos M. Martinez for $500. That public hearing is called for Wednesday, October 6th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Your votes. All right, and that was moved by Miola. Please let that reflect. We have a second from Beatrice. They had their hands up. We were just moving along. Thank you. Ordinance
Resolution number 2.
It's Resolution 2, sorry.
9 A's adopted.
Thank you. Ordinance 3. All right, so Ordinance 3 is the paired sale, 301 Mortimer Street and 1116. There's a motion to refer to committee, a second from McNeil. Any opposed? Ordinance 3 is in committee. Resolution 4, calling for a public hearing on the sale of 1441 Sunset Avenue to Alessandro Hernandez for $31,500. We have a motion from Miola, second from McNeil. Your votes.
Nine A's adopted.
Thank you very much. Ordinance 5 is the paired sale agreement. It's the ordinance 1441 Sunset Avenue.
Motion to refer to committee, Mr. President.
Okay, who's the second on that? McNeil's the second. Any opposed? Ordinance 5 is in committee. Thank you very much. Okay. Next order of business is public comment period. Give me 1 second to just a couple things off to the side here. Okay, that's set. Okay. We have 6 speakers this evening for public comment period. Before we start public comment period, the new public comment period rules deem that if there are groups here, they should elect 1 representative. Are there any groups here speaking on the same? Okay. Everyone's an individual. First speaker this evening is Walter Belstadt Jr. Would you please come up? The Common Council has provided you a copy of Section 3244 Public Comment Period Rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Good evening, and thank you.
And
For a
just
lot of
before
you
begin,
probably.
I will be keeping time, although I'll let you know when you're getting close. So
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll try to make it short and sweet. As we all know, there's a terrible problem on Oneida Square with drugs and the homeless and other situations. I am asking the council to consider an emergency abatement order against the Cornerstone Church for aiding and abetting drug addicts, mentally ill, with no staff to take care of these people. As you can see in these pictures, this is the inside of the church. These are the comments that the Mike Ballman makes towards people. This young man here overdosed on my front porch. This man here was shooting heroin on my front porch. He's a church member. He also assaulted another member of the church and put him in ICU for 3 days. The police have to have a police vehicle there 7 days a week. This, I believe, is against the City of Utica city ordinance of an abatement. I believe it falls under Section 1, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I believe this problem has been going on long enough, and all the minister and the preacher is doing is allowing people to, is to do drugs and sleep there and eat there for nothing. There's no program in place. We have the Hope House that feeds people in need. We have the rescue mission that also has a set program to combat these problems. There's nothing at the Cornerstone Church that has anything in set in stone to help these people to recovery. All they're doing is aiding them to panhandle on the street and use drugs and give them a place to sleep and eat. I am asking the council to please consider an abatement order against the Cornerstone Church to stop this shelter. It is doing nothing to help our community. It is making our students at Munson Williams Protestant Institute afraid to even go past the church. I cannot walk my dog. I wake up in the morning taking my dog out. I have dead bodies laying in front of my house. My first day of vacation, I have people shooting heroin on my front porch in broad daylight, okay? I know the police are very busy. I don't think that they need to keep a police car up there 24/7. I believe this is definitely going against the nuisance abatement order, and something needs to be done. Once you shut down this church for allowing this to happen, these people will disperse. Thank you, and I hope that you will consider making this a priority to clean up our city and stop our police force from having to waste their time up there doing nothing, because there's no ordinance against loitering and panhandling. They're out there, they're panhandling on the streets, they're in the roads, they're so high they don't even know what they're doing. There's many assaults that have taken place inside of the church, and these conditions are not sanitary for anyone to be living in. He is not helping anyone. His comments with the F word to people who oppose him online is uncalled for. And how much longer does Munson Williams and us people of the city of Utica that live on Plant Street and State Street have to tolerate this nonsense?
All right, Mr. Belstadt, that is the time, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for your time.
Howard Potter, you are the next speaker this evening. The Common Council has provided you a copy of Section 3244 Public Comment Period Rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Yes, I am.
Thank you very much. State your name for the record. You may begin.
Howard Potter. Before I begin, I overheard your prior meeting and you were talking about developing downtown, improving the homes, getting people of a certain income level to moving those homes. Now, being a resident since the age of 11, owning a home since I was 21 years old and I'm now 40, being a business owner of 18 years, I understand developing, I understand improving things, I understand in moving things forward and investing. If you're going to do that, it starts with your schools. And in saying that, what's going on right now, parents are being shut down, they're being shut out, and it is a city problem because the school district is in the city. Our school board and school district are knowingly violating open meeting laws by refusing to let the public in to view the meetings in person, and by refusing to move the meetings to accommodate the amount of people attending. As council members that represent each area of this city, which has school buildings in your districts, are you proud of how the school district is managed? Now, over the past few years, we were audited, and there was over $400,000 in just a small percentage of our faculty's pay that they received, which wasn't approved by our school board. We have an elementary school, 2 middle schools, and a high school that are heavily watched by New York State because they're not meeting the minimum requirements. We barely carry a 70% graduation rate when the state average is 80%. And I know we like to blame it on, we have immigrants that don't speak English. That doesn't hold water because those are the ones getting all the scholarships. And it's offensive to them. We have over 2,000 safety bus concerns in the past 4 years, which was stated by the school district in their lawsuit. They've yet to bring that forward before then, before being sued. Children are being picked up late, they're dropped off at the wrong stops, not picked up at all, and children are dropped off late. And at no time did our district over the past 4 years raise these concerns. We have now entered a new agreement for a secondary, which is now the main vendor for our busing, and all that did was separate the bus drivers and lower the capacity of what can be offered as a vendor to our students and parents to get the kids to and from school safely. Next issue we have is we have an amazing faculty, but the issue is our 1 to 5 year teachers are leaving at a rate of 17% annually. Overall, we're losing 8% of our teachers annually. And what that means is it's not all due to medical reasons. It's not due to all due to retirement. People are leaving the district. And if you're going to bring people to this city, the first thing they look at is our school district and then our safety. Look at the amount of fights that have been happening just as school started, and it's not improving. Our city police are hired to work the school board meetings. Children are having bus safety issues and left out on the streets at the wrong bus stops at time, or getting home extremely late and parents are scared. The city of Utica collects school district property taxes for the district. These schools are in the city of Utica. How is this not a city issue at any point? We talk about improving our city. It starts from the top down, and when our school board and admin fail, it falls onto our city to pick up the pieces, or pick the pieces up. Our school district is teaching to our future of our city. Our Common Council is our last hope, our Common Council is our last hope to step in and protect our children. We say Utica starts with you. That's all I'm asking for.
Thank you. Next speaker this evening is Ron Vincent. Common Council has provided you a copy of Section 3244 Public Comment Period Rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Yes, I am.
Please state your name for the record, then you may begin.
My name is Ron Vincent. I live in North Utica. I'd like to personally thank the City of Utica and the City of Utica alone. The engineering department has worked on 4 stormwater projects over in North Utica this year, and they're doing a great job. They just finished the one in my backyard yesterday. But also I'd like to ask anybody if they've read the paper, because on 9/14 I've got a clipping here. Oneida County okays flood mitigation grants for Marshall, Kirkland, Waterville, Whitestown, and also for the SCBIC. I didn't see the word Utica on there. And on September 28th, another big headline, front page of the paper. New Hartford addressing stormwater issues. The town is in process of spending $1.6 million on the stormwater work, with more planned in the coming years. Goes on to say $1.3 million from the county, Oneida, and $490 of in-kind services. The Sangertown Square project, through a grant from the county for $250,000 plus in-kind. The project, another project is paid for through a $300,000 county loan for the town bonded for. About 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting at the North Utica Center. We invited people from the county, the town of Deerfield, and the city of Utica. Our engineering department showed up, our DPW, we had people from the county there, planning board, county legislators, our own legislator from the city, and there was about 5 people there from Deerfield. And the question always goes on, with all the flooding that we have in this city of Utica, a lot of it comes down from the south. But there's a mountain on the north side of the city that's just as big as the one on the south side. The only problem is there's no flatlands. Retention ponds are unheard of over here. Everything comes down a hill. All the work that the city of Utica has cleaning out creeks, they've been doing it for years. Now they're all the way down to the thruway. They can't go any further because you can't go underneath the thruway and clean it out. That's theirs. So the state has to step up. You can't go and do anything near the canal because that's part of the Canal Corporation. The state has to show up. So on the north side, where all the debris comes down and clogs everything in North Utica, all the pipes, floods over, wipes out everybody's in-ground pools, their cellars, destroys their homes. That's all the town of Deerfield. What's Deerfield say? Well, we can't do nothing. It's private property. So why doesn't Deerfield and the county of Oneida get together, get some money, because Utica taxpayers are paying for it with Utica taxes, but yet all these other towns and everything on the south side are getting help through the county. I can't say one way or another if the county's given any money to the
Mr.
city
Vincent,
for flood mitigation or not.
We're coming up on equal time with the rest of the speakers this evening, so if you could wrap it
Okay,
up, thanks.
I'll rest it at that.
Thank you.
But let's get together and try to get together with the county and Deerfield to get these problems taken care of and keep an eye on them yearly. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker this evening, Oliver Ruff, if you could please come forward. Thank you.
Hey, good evening.
The Common Council has provided you a copy of Section 3244, Public Comment Period Rule. You're in agreement with this?
Yes, sir.
Please state your name. You may begin.
All right. Hey, my name is Oliver Ruff. I'm from New Hartford. I live just on the edge of the town. All right, so the first thing I wanted to mention was the population in New York's gone down, and the number of congressional districts is actually going to drop from, I think, 13 to 12. This is what I think's happening. And in any case, they're going to redistrict New York based on what they want to do. Now, I don't think that we should do single-party rule for New York. I don't think it's a good idea. But as the Democrats are going to redistrict it, it's going to be, every district is going to be, how can they win it and to keep it, which is pragmatic for them, but what it's going to result in is basically single-party rule by Democrats over all of New York. All right. So now there's a Republican map and there's a Democrat map, and these are competing proposals. What we should do is have an independent, nonpartisan, balanced approach, because you want pluralism, you want many points of view. You don't want single-party rule, because what you end up happening is tyrannical, dictatorial edicts coming from Albany, and you don't want that at all. In fact, what we should do is we should take Albany, and sell it to Massachusetts, and we'll be upstate, and it'll be downstate, and you can have a state budget that's based on parity, all right? So you spend about equal amount downstate as you do upstate. But what we have right now is Albany is like a parasite, and they're taking way more than they're giving, and because they're doing it politically, certain areas suffer. Now, I've seen this history in the past in places like Ukraine. The Russians came in, they overwhelmed the Ukrainians, and then they starved them. Now, we're not starving, but economically, we're not getting exactly what we should. I know there's 8 cities that were deprived of school funds for a number of years. This is like $30 million a year to Utica. And I think this has been happening for a number of years. You should sue New York and get that money back, because basically when they did this funding scheme, I think it was a crime. I don't think it was up to the law. And I think what Cuomo did was he rewarded Democratic districts and he punished Republican districts. He rewarded people downstate and he hurt upstate. And this has been a long trend, and I actually think that the nursing home scandal was not an accident. I think that was a crime as well.
Mr. Ruff, I'm just going to ask you to bring it back to city business.
All right, I got
Otherwise-
one city
okay.
proposal that I want to, something
Thank
that's
you.
important to me. Marijuana is going to be a huge cash, it's Canada's #1 cash crop. It can generate tons of revenue that can pay for a lot of things that you guys want to do, and the sky's the limit. Now, as other towns are voting, some are saying that they don't want to do it, that's fine, that's fine. But if we do it, we can make a fortune. We can make absolute bank, all right? Duke University was built on tobacco profits. We can build so much off of cannabis, all right? And what I'm saying is, let's do a cannabis trading floor. We have a state building here in Utica. We can take a floor, say like the 9th floor, the 8th floor, just take the whole floor and turn it into a cannabis trading center, and we can profit off of the trade, and everybody will benefit.
All right, that is your time. So
Thank
you, Mr. Ruff.
Thank you very much.
Oliver Ruff, thank you. The next speaker this evening, Emily Raymond. Please come forward. Common Council's provided you a copy of Section 3244 Public Comment Period Rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Yes, I'm in agreement. Thank
Please
you.
state your name for the record, and you may begin.
I'm Emily Raymond, and I live at 623 Plant Street. I've been living there now for the past 8 or 9 years with my mom. She's owned the house since 1964. We grew up there. A very different neighborhood, very different time. Last year, when Pastor Ballman proposed opening the church, the warming center, I thought to myself, this is a great idea. I'm a very compassionate sort. I donated money, I brought food, my neighbors did as well. But what I failed to understand or think about or anticipate was how he and the congregation were really going to organize and manage that enterprise. And my heart goes out. I have a son who has a mental illness. I lost a brother to heroin. I understand. But I don't have a real clear proposal, but I'm hoping that with all the good, bright, creative minds we have in this area, that we can find another place. I say what everybody else is saying, can't walk my dog, I'm not comfortable. I can't even have my mom out, 91 years old, on the porch to have a cup of tea and a cookie. That's how uncomfortable I am, and it's real. And so for anybody that doesn't live in that immediate neighborhood or have to go through there regularly, I don't even know if they can relate. So I'm sorry if I feel or sound one-sided on this issue, but I feel very strongly, and I hope something could be done.
Thank you very much. All right, the final speaker this evening is Rainer Wanner, I believe. I apologize if the last name is not pronounced right. All right, thank you. The Common Council has provided you a copy of Section 3244 Public Comment Period Rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Yeah.
Please
My name
begin.
is Rainavina,
Ah.
and I am living at 519 Plant Street. This is one of these houses in this brick row house block, the Comstock block. And we are living, my wife and I, we are living there for 20 years now, and we saw really a lot of people who lived there and a lot of hardship we went through. And we were really relieved when finally Mike Ballman helped us to find a building manager who really cleaned up with all these people that were living in this block, because we understood that this the people who are living in this block, this is pivotal for the whole street and for the whole neighborhood. So we got rid, after 20 years of working with all kinds of interest groups and here with with this house here. So we got rid of the drug addictions. We got rid of all kinds of gang related criminals who were renting property. We got rid of these people who were just buying these buildings for some profit to sell them. They were not interested in who's living there. Finally, now, after seeing some relief, we find Mike Ballman obviously lost a lot of his congregation, a lot of people who attending their church. They don't come back. They don't want to be part of that, what he is doing here, by inviting like a safe house, giving drug addicts an open place to where they could sleep and spend the night and have free meals. And we see that with inviting all these drug addicts, and this was my remark I made on Facebook when there was a shooting and somebody was bleeding on Mike Ballman's backyard. I just made a remark saying, yeah, with the drugs comes the crime, and with the crime, and I got the answer from the pastor with the F word, fuck off. And I apologize, this was not my words, this is the words of the pastor. And I replied, well, if this is all what you can say, then sorry, you are working the wrong business. And I think really that it should be addressed by the city that they cannot give Mike Ballman here grants for doing what he is doing. And so encouraging him to get rid of a certain problem that the city has to face otherwise. And it is to the disadvantage of all our neighborhood, our whole houses. We don't find tenants, really sensible tenants anymore. And the values of our properties are going down as our life savings. And my wife and some of the neighbors, they don't dare to go at a certain time of the day, don't go certain streets down to meet some or attend some events at the Munson Williams. So I really would like to ask you to consider all these concerns that were brought up by several people here, and we signed a petition with some lawyers that was hired from the Munson Williams, and so please consider to do something about this.
Thank you.
problem.
Thank you. Your comments were respected. Thank you. That was the final speaker this evening. Thank you for everyone's attention.
Can I just make a quick request?
But
my neighbor be able to speak. I mean, this part of the meeting started so late and she wasn't able to sign.
The council's fine with this? Yes? Please come forward. That will be the final speaker, however. Thank you. Please review the public comment rule that's on the podium there, and then please state your name and you may begin. Thank you. It's right there.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, council. My name's Hope Wagner.
Thank you.
I hope you can hear my mask on. I first like to thank everybody for their service and their time that you put into our community, and taking the time to listen to us and some of our concerns. And I usually like to be on a positive note, but I came here specifically to address the Cobblestone Church. I was a former member of that church, and I've known Mike Ballman for some time. And my husband and I run the property from 511 to 521, which is the big brick building.
Mm-hmm.
And over the years, first, I'm here also to represent the owners of that. But the first thing they did was, out of 25 apartments, evicted 18 apartments. And the owners of that apartment complex have invested quite a bit of money and had turned the property over. I guarantee everybody that comes in there now is a background check, an application. They're employed, young professional, excuse me, and take great pride in that building and turning that neighborhood around. So I've seen the mess of it in the beginning, and the neighbors I've met and people I've met recently enjoy the peace and the tranquility that finally came to Plant Street. Now, Oneida Square has this reputation, and there are times that people are afraid to even come down in the community. And I personally have experienced some of that riffraff, but I also know that people have come down and said, let's change it. And I watched it change, and now I'm watching it decline again. And we're finding needles on our porches, used needles, people urinating on our building. I've had complaints of young women that some men are hiding behind the dumpster, so we got security issues. We've had some of our vehicles broken into again. So I've watched the increase of the issues come back into the community. So I'm 100% behind that this really does need to be addressed in a balance. So I'm here to represent the owners to say they've invested, this is what they want, and they are expecting that in return from the city. On a personal note, as a neighbor, I have to say, I don't know if anybody has recognized me, but I recently lost a daughter to murder of 2019. And Oneida County took a hold of my family and helped us through that tragic time. And during that, I was able to bring my grandchildren to my home on Plant Street with the comfort that I could bring them there. My family was there. And we didn't stay long. We met somewhere else because we have had issues with people overdosing on our sidewalk, right in front of our porch, all kinds of issues. Hygiene issues, swearing, fighting, police presence constantly. So my husband and I have talked, and we may not come spring continue to participate, and we have to make a change, and that'd be very devastating because out of 25 apartments, they've all have great people in there today, working hard class people. So just put that on a note. And I just want to say we're 100% behind helping the people too. And I think that's where the pastor had went wrong, that the neighbors aren't on board, because we are. And we've donated to the church, we've done volunteer to the church. Everybody has participated in the community as a neighbor setting. And then all of a sudden it just exploded. He wants nothing to do with any of us. So thank you for your time. Sorry about the last minute.
Thank you. All right, so the next order of business is actually reports from the city officers. However, I'm going to extend this also to the county executive, Tony Piceni. who is here this evening to address some issues as well that have been affecting the city, and he would like to extend his information to the council regarding the county. If you could please come up. You may speak from the podium, or you may join the department heads at the table, whichever you prefer. And thank you very much for your patience. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I want to thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Councilman DeBrango.
Sorry?
Yeah, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much again, Mr. President. I want to thank you. I called you kind of late today because I did want to come and address this body. To the honorable members, thank you. Judge Garamone, always a pleasure to see you. And the city department heads, thank you for being here. I haven't been here in a while. I wanted to come tonight, and certainly the issues that have been raised by many of the citizens here are of concern of me as well. And I wanted to really open a little bit of a dialogue with you, with the members of this council, with many of the issues facing the county and the city of Utica. And in particular, I know that's been a topic of Oneida Square that I'm here to talk a little bit about. And I just want to state, as I begin, I'm a little dismayed at some of the misstatements by members of this council regarding Oneida Square and regarding the county's role or their lack of, regarding this problem. Now, we have a great many serious issues, COVID being at the forefront and has been for the last year, and then some, the last 2 years. Certainly homelessness, drug abuse, drug addiction, healthcare, public safety, all of that comes in to play with every community throughout Oneida County. I worked, with many community partners. Certainly, we look at all of these issues and how they affect the entire county. We gather the information from credible sources. We work together. We bring a team, not just my department heads, but other agencies together. And then as a government, we execute those plans. I don't formulate my policy based on just part of the information. I try to get all of the information. And as I come here tonight, this is a city that I grew up in and that I love and that I lead in terms of the county that I also serve and lead. I mean, all of this Oneida County is important to me, every single aspect of it. Utica is the county seat, and as this city goes, so goes the county, and I've said that publicly for my 15 years in office as county executive. My door is always open. I'd like to get engaged in dialogue, and I ask you to do the same. If there are questions, if there are issues, if there are areas of concern or that need to be clarified, my door is open. Please call me. There are many investments the county has made in the city of Utica, and I'm happy to share and to discuss and answer any questions at this time or any other time that this council may have regarding some of these projects. And let me just name a few. The improvements at the Oneida County Office Building and our campus with the courthouse, Union Station, the REA wing, and creating parking improvements throughout the downtown area. Creating a parking lot at the Utica Auditorium, paid for to the city of Utica and paved by the county of Oneida and lighted by the county of Oneida for the development at the Aud. Extra funding in our last couple budgets for the zoo, in addition to the annual commitment. Funding given to Stephen Swan Humane Society that you heard from tonight. Our codes contract, annual codes contract with the city of Utica. Our annual contract with the CNY SPCA to alleviate the burden on law enforcement in the city of Utica and throughout the county in dealing with animal abuse cases. Direct cash assistance to people who flooded in the city of Utica from the Halloween flood. Our multi-million-dollar commitment to the MVCC campus in Utica. Our appropriation annually to the Utica Library of over $200,000. I mentioned our REA wing, over $10 million invested, and the public market of which is one of top 100 in the country. I mentioned the auditorium, cash flowing $20 million for the improvements and adding $2 million, and now investing along with the Audit Authority $64 million in building the Nexus Center. $200 million in sewer upgrades at the sewage treatment plant to improve and enhance the sewage flows that particularly deal with the city of Utica in that area. Our $40 million plus commitment to building a parking garage for MVHS Wynn Hospital, that without it, the hospital cannot open. And of course, millions and millions of dollars and still counting to combat COVID and deal with the challenges that we have getting people tested, vaccinated, quarantined, traced, and keeping schools open all the while during this process. Not to mention, the hundreds of millions of dollars that we spend annually in human service-related services to all of the residents of this community. Now, it's clear, and you've heard tonight, and you've been well aware of it over the weeks, that we do have an issue of homelessness throughout the county, in particular in the city of Utica, but no area, I can assure you, as county executive, is immune from this. City of Rome has homelessness, drug addiction, Camden, Bridgewater, Boonville, you name it, it exists. You may not see it on the front page like you do here, but it does exist. But I would be remiss that while, it may be front and center, that this community and most communities across the country have been dealing with this, and it has gotten enhanced throughout the pandemic because of lack of work, COVID, release of mental patients from state facilities, and the national crisis of drug abuse that we deal with and answer through our opioid task force that you hear so much about, and that members of your police department, along with the Crime Activity Center, participates. So I wouldn't think I have to say this, but homelessness is not created because someone built a shelter. Its cases are varied. They're steeped, as I said, in mental health issues, drug abuse, as well as economic and societal issues. To pretend it's because otherwise would be, misleading to all, and quite frankly, misleading a community. But let's start by dispelling a couple of those. I heard someone say that rumors that frequently have zero basis in fact. I want you to be armed with the facts as they are. Oneida County does not, has not, and has never bused people to Oneida Square or anywhere in the city of Utica for services or to leave them there. Nor have we accepted or bused people from any other county to do that. That is not what we're in the business to do. What have we done to address the issues at Oneida Square? Just over the last month, plenty. We created street engagement teams and started right in Oneida Square. This is a rapid response, multi-agency, multidisciplined team that gives boots on the ground for a coordinated outreach in those hotspots. The team is broken into several subgroups. Medical services headed by Reach Medical, a team that provides medical and substance abuse treatment. 36 individuals are receiving treatment as we speak, on-demand treatment. Harm reduction and social support services headed by the Oneida County Department of Children and Family Services, and ACR Health, which incidentally, and I heard the issues of the neighbors, and we share those concerns, picked up today 135 syringes in that area. 123 harm reduction items have been distributed. 15 have been referred for additional services. 30 individuals assisted with benefit counseling and screening. Coordination was headed by our public health and mental health departments. We have weekly meetings with for street engagement team, coordinating and resource, and we are also meeting on a weekly basis with all of our partners in that area. We provided a vehicle to support the work crews during the day for those homeless to go clean neighborhoods in the city of Utica. We funded emergency duty caseworkers and fund ICANN outreach workers as well. We bring all of these community agencies and partners together on a weekly basis, as I said, to identify and address issues and gaps as we move forward. The effort includes many Oneida County departments, including, as I mentioned, the Office of Children and Family Services, our Mental Health Department, our Law Department, our Youth Bureau, our Veterans Office, our Office for the Aging, Workforce Development, Emergency Services, Mental Health, and of course my office. Other agencies involved include, at these meetings, Munson Williams Proctor Art Institute, the Cornerstone Church, Hope House, DePaul Community Services, Helio Health, ACR Health, ICANN, the Rescue Mission, Salvation Army, UCP, the Neighborhood Center, and the Community Foundation. To date, in this short time, we have spent over $359 million in combating this issue. None of us like it any more than the residents, certainly. We do have a role in county government, and that is to take care of those that are neglected, abused, homeless, as I know that you share that concern, and I heard from the residents that share the same concern but are tired of dealing with some of these issues. My point here tonight is to talk, to open an area of communication that I don't think we've had. And it doesn't just stem around Oneida Square. It stems around many other issues that the county is involved in. When you look at the amount of investment that Oneida County has made, and in particular in my administration, and yes, that's what I'll talk about. I've invested from the county more dollars in the city of Utica than any of my predecessors combined. Now, I've been around a little bit longer, so that makes it a little bit easier. But at the same time, the investment that we are making regarding economic development, tourism, healthcare, and other related issues are unprecedented. The growth that's taking place, the investment that's just taking place in downtown, the investment that's taking place around and in the city of Utica. Cree, for example. Whenever Cree is mentioned, although it sits in the town of Marcy, it says Cree Utica. That's how they market it. That's important to all of us. That's important to this community. It's important to how we build and grow this community to be a better place. Now, it's true we've had our differences, but differences should end up on the table, and we should work together to get things done. And I reach out to you tonight to do just that. To ask that if you have questions, if you've heard something, check the source. The source is us. If it's about county government, my departments are always available, but more importantly, I am always available. I'm available to talk, to open a dialogue. We've had a lot of miscommunication over the past several months. Miscommunication regarding a hospital project, miscommunication regarding a garage, miscommunication regarding Nexus, miscommunication certainly regarding our role in public health and safety in and around Oneida Square and throughout the city of Utica. I'm here to say tonight that we are your partner. Utica is the county seat. And while we look at the investments being made, we also look at the issues that need to be corrected. And we are working hand in hand with members of this administration, of the city administration. And we will continue to do that. But Oneida County is not absent from the viewpoint or from the crisis that is engulfing all of our communities. We have spent millions of dollars in COVID preparation in terms of schools, businesses, agencies, this city government as well, other governments throughout Oneida County. We were the one government that remained open throughout the entire COVID piece, and we do so today. We are spending millions of dollars in that, and we will continue. In just 2 weeks, I will present my county budget to the Board of Legislators for their review and approval over the next month. That will include American Rescue Act funding, that will address some of these issues and many other different varied issues, but also continue to address the issues that are important in this community. And that is a $440 million plus budget that encompasses and works in all areas of public health and safety, in all areas of mental health, social services, human services, veterans, and all of the agencies I mentioned. I come here tonight again to answer any questions, either tonight or at any other time. But all I ask is that when you do have questions about county government, when you do want to know what we're doing, please ask us. We will come here. We will sit down. We will work together, as we do with every other municipality in this community, and pledge to do that. We have serious problems. We know that. We're addressing them to the best of our ability, and we'll continue to do that. But we do need cooperation, and we do need a partnership, and that's why I'm here tonight. I want to thank the President for allowing me this opportunity, and all of you members of the council for listening, and again, I'm available to answer any questions that you may have. Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. At this time, I'm going to ask the Deputy Clerk to please, what we should do, although we do all have contact information for the County Executive's office, we should reiterate that throughout the chambers and email that to everybody to make sure that if anyone does need that direct line or email, they can have that. Do you have anything else for us this evening?
Like I said, I'm an open book. Any questions, be glad to answer them at any time.
Okay,
And
thank you.
please, whether it's in writing, whether it's in person, I mentioned the open door policy, everything is there.
Councilman Lomatico, that's, Councilman Lomatico, we can't
I'm
offer
gonna-
anything from the floor.
I'm going to defer
All
to
right.
the floor,
Thank you.
to the speaker, to the president, excuse me.
All right, thank you. But do you have a question? That's, Councilman Lomatico, here's the thing. There's many
defer
people in
to
the
you.
audience. We have to keep order. I appreciate that the audience may want to ask the county executive some questions. Please take that aside after the presentation. I have to move on with the department heads. Thank you.
Thank you very
so
much.
much. Thank you. Corporation Counsel. Thank you very much. Deputy Chief Noonan.
Nothing to report, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomas.
Nothing at this point.
Commissioner Phillips.
I'd just like to say briefly that I spoke to the mayor prior to today's meeting. Just like in the past few meetings, we knew Oneida Square was going to come up, and a lot of things surrounding the dialogue going around it. And I have a list of things the city's had to do in recent years to deal with this uptick in problems. But the one thing, if we're being honest, we all have to acknowledge is whatever we're doing, right? We got a list of a whole bunch of things, a lot of money. It's not working to the satisfaction of our residents, right? So if we have to have a talk, it can't be to put the same ingredients in the same cake. It has to be a rethinking of.
Mr. President, can you ask the audience to be quiet so that we can listen to Commissioner Phillips, who has the floor at the moment?
I will ask the Walter Belstad, if you could step to the back of the room, please, and speak with the county executive. No, that's fine. County executive, if you could please stay during remonstrances, it would be appreciated because the council will be addressing certain things. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, Mr.
And so,
Commissioner.
no, the thing I say is, look, we got a list, there's a whole bunch of things, and I've been a part of that. That's why they asked me, the mayor asked me to address it. The city's put millions of dollars into this, the county's put millions of dollars into it, and I would like to reiterate what the county executive says. The people from the county are passionate about this issue. When we've asked for help with the Olston, when we've asked for help to do outreach to these people, the county's been there, their workers work hard. There's no shortage of good intentions here. There's nobody that wants the city to go into rot. There's nobody that doesn't want to do better for our city. But the issue that we continue to have as a city is no matter how many resources we put in, no matter how much effort the county puts in, no matter how hard our nonprofits work, it looks like it's getting worse. And so if we're putting something into a problem and it's not solving the problem, then are we doing right by it? So the conversation that we need to have is how can we build a better system? that takes care of these things better. As a city, as a county, we'll take responsibility where we're wrong. I'm sure they'll take responsibility when they're wrong, as neighbors, as nonprofit, everybody. What can we do better? Because this is not working. And it's frustrating everybody. And so, I just, you know, speaking to the mayor earlier, we just don't want people to leave the room thinking that we're okay with the way it is, and look, we'll throw some more money at it, add a worker here or there, and it's gonna get better. Stuff is going to have to change. Because the stuff that's going on right now isn't working. And so, you know, the Community Foundation offered to facilitate a dialogue between us and the county and some nonprofits a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. They came in and asked us, hey, let us start this talk to think about how we can rethink a system, and we said yes. And so, when everybody comes to that table, we'll have that talk, but the talk has to start with the same things we've been doing are not working for our residents. And we gotta think of new and better ways to solve the problems. Okay?
Question here or no?
All right, thank you. Do you have anything else, Commissioner Phillips?
If Councilman Beatrice wants to ask a question, I yield my time.
I would like you to pose the question during remonstrances and appeals.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you. All right, thank you. Assistant Chief Dune, thank you. I was just going to ask you that. Okay, so you.
My assistant corporation counsel does have something to report.
Okay, Corporation Counsel, since we passed over you.
Councilwoman Neal, you had some questions, and I believe some of the other council members did regarding the highway lighting, and I just wanted to follow up so you had those answers before. Essentially, with respect to the timing of when you get the resolutions, it's all based upon the state, and when we get them, it's essentially a pre-printed form that we send down after our review to you guys. So as far as when you get it, I really have no control over when you guys get it. And then as far as a deadline to pass, I don't know without contacting the state as far as what would happen if we do not pass it. But I will just make a note that they can sue us or turn the lights off because it is our responsibility to maintain.
If we could find out, that would be great.
So, but yeah, so that's essentially where we stand as far as the highway lighting resolutions. Yep.
Thank you, and that was appreciated because that was quite the topic for the last meeting. Okay, anything else from department heads? Thank you very much. I do have something quick from the mayor. He does have a communication. I know, I gotta read it, I'm sorry. It's okay. All right, so Mayor Robert Palmieri, September 22nd, 2021. This is the mayor's message to the council. I want to thank the Common Council for rescheduling its regular meeting to accommodate a logistical error made by our local newspaper in not publishing the notice the city provided for the public hearing to sell the Urban Renewal Agency properties. Included on the council agenda tonight is the sale of URA properties, which will spur exciting economic development growth for our city. The city's bulk fall green waste pickup period officially begins on September 13th and will run until the first week of December, weather permitting. Enclosed with this message is a flyer that was mailed to all Utica households, which has more detailed information about the city's green waste pickup. That concludes the mayor's communication. The next order of business is remonstrances, appeals, and petitions from the council. We do have 4 pieces. I'll get to that. We also have some pieces that you do need to call from the floor. First District, and Majority Leader Maria McNeely of the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have nothing this evening.
Thank you very much. Second District, Councilman Burmaster, you have the floor.
Thank you. I don't have anything either.
Thank you very much. Third District, Councilperson Friend, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have something I do want to talk about tonight, but I want to sort of preface it by saying that in light of tonight's public comment, which was so great, thanks for coming, keep coming. This is really good for us, I believe, as a city. But I do want to sort of give the general caveat that what I'm going to talk about now seems maybe sort of out of proportion to the other big problems that the city is dealing with. But I do just want to take the opportunity to respond to something that was said at the last meeting. So at the last meeting, I sort of said a little bit about the school board, about how I was concerned about the number of parents who wanted to go to a school board meeting, weren't able to, the size of the room wouldn't accommodate them. I think I believe that I stated that that's a violation of open meeting law, which is very clear that it is. And Councilman Williamson objected to me bringing this up at this council meeting. He asserted that that business doesn't belong in this room. And I just want to say a couple of things in response to that. I want to say first that I'd really like to hear the argument as to why that doesn't belong in this room. He asserted it, but he didn't give any reasons for it. I'd love to hear an actual argument for why I shouldn't discuss such a thing during remonstrances. So that's one thing I want to say. I also want to say that other people discuss other sort of governmental bodies, and no one seems to object. In fact, fairly recently, Councilman DeBrango talked explicitly about Superintendent Karam during his remonstrances. Nobody seemed to have an objection to that, but when I criticized the school board, that seemed to become a problem. But the real heart of the matter that I want to say is that I discussed the school board during the last council meeting because it is my solemn responsibility to advocate on behalf of my constituents. Many of my constituents are the parents of school children, and many other constituents are themselves school children, and I'm here to advocate for them. And I'm here to advocate for them even when it's another governmental body that I think is not doing its full responsibility to them. And I'm going to continue to do that. So I will continue to advocate for my constituents whether Mr. Williamson likes it or not. Of course, this is relatively easy for me. I don't have any conflicts of interest there. I'm not employed by the school board. So when I criticize the school board, there's no conflict of interest there. So that's all I have tonight. I do want to repeat that I'm really glad that so many people came to public comment and brought so many different kinds of diverse issues from the city to our attention. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. 4th District and President Pro Temp, Councilman Miola.
Hello, Mr. President. I'd like to move some legislation if that's possible.
Let's do that. You want to do them all?
First
we
off,
just move on with
maybe
petitions?
I'll save a few for the other
Okay.
guys.
All right.
First off, we need a Thursday rule waiver for the local law.
All right, there's a motion to waive the Thursday rule for the Resolution 7, the transfer of funds, and introductory to local law number 2. There's a second from Moody. Any opposed to waiving the Thursday rule? It's been waived. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Secondly, I'd like to motion to table local law number 2 of 2021 that concerns establishing a temporary moratorium on convenience stores and smoke shops in the city of Utica.
All right, there's a motion to lay that on the table. However, there was a small amendment that needed to be made in a whereas, although the whereas is not effective as a local
Mr. President,
law.
I'd like to read the amendment in the record, if that's okay.
Yes.
Whereas, since the adoption of the new zoning law on February 3rd, 2021, new questions have arisen with regard to the terms and application of these 3 entities instead of 2.
Second?
Second.
All right, we have a second from Councilperson Friend. Any opposed to the amendment? All right, your votes, or do we have a second to lay that on the table? Sorry. We have a second from Lomatico, Moody. There's multiple seconds, but I'll go with Lomatico. You had your hand up first. Your votes to lay that on the table.
Eight yeas, 1 nay adopted.
Thank you. It is on the table. Did you mean to do that? Okay. So your vote was yes?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. That's fine.
Yeah.
Just let it reflect 9 yeas. Thank you. It was a technical error.
Yeah.
Councilman Mueller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move from committee ordinance number 5, residence waiver for electrical inspector.
I'd like to second that, please.
Okay, we have a second to pull the Ordinance 5 residency waiver for electrical inspector from committee, which has been read into the record in full at a previous meeting. Any opposed to pulling that from committee? Okay, it's out on the floor. Move it to a vote, please.
I'd like the motion to vote, Mr. President.
A second from McNeil. Your votes. Call the vote, please. All right, it's 1 nay. Okay.
8 yeas adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm all set for tonight.
Thank you very much. 5th District, Councilman Moody, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll move expeditiously and try to have some brevity in what I'm going to say. I do want to first thank the county executive for coming to address the question of homelessness and particularly the issues regarding the Oneida Square. From his remarks, I was thoroughly pleased with all of his accomplishments, particularly the parking improvements, courthouse improvements, zoo increase, Swan Humane Society money, code of conduct money, annual abuse money for animals, flooding money. money to the zoo, money to the parking, public market, money to the auditorium and all, Nexus Center, sewer upgrades, $40 million for the parking garage, COVID release, and then his mention of the services. I thank him for reiterating to us $359 million to abate the problem, which seems to be an enormous amount. What is troubling to me in all of this, and I will be honest, and again, I certainly hope that my comments did in no way attempt to assert that he or his administration is not active in the role of homelessness, but to have him come over a misinterpreted comment about busing folks into Cornhill or into Utica. There are 1,000 other issues that I would have loved to see him personally come to the council to address. This would have not been on the first of the issue. We didn't see that when we have all of these kids with limited things to do after school, the proliferation of gun violence in our city. I have an issue with trying to put up cameras on light poles. We have issues for middle income housing. We have issues when it comes to access to other things with regard to COVID and things of that nature. Not with the hospital, not with the garage. I didn't even personally receive the letter that he sent to every member of this council with the issue that he had about the garage and others. But to come because of my comment about busing of people, to me seems to be an overkill, to say the very least. That's in my opinion. There is an issue in Oneida Square, and I am glad to hear of his support and partnership. I do know fully well, because I'm in city government, I would know more about city government than county government. I'm not a county legislator, that's Yvonne Irvin. I am aware about the crisis intervention team that the city is doing with the UPD. But to hear that weekly meetings are had, I've talked to members of the UPD, and they're not always invited or included in these meetings. So I suggest that it is not to have this display. We use and throw around this term on the council of grandstanding, and that's what they label some of us in firmly advocating for our communities. I'm not here with that perspective, but if we are here because of my comments regarding the proliferation of services in a particular area, then I'll take that all day long. But I will say, in his partnership, I'm glad to hear that there's a partnership from the county, because I have a whole host of issues that I would love to get county support on, state support on, and I'm confident that the county executive will be a strong partner in getting that done. So thank you, Mr. County Executive, for your partnership, your leadership, and I look forward to working with you in the near future to turn Cornhill around. That being said, Mr. President, I do have some legislation that I want to bring forward. I am going to move for a Thursday waiver with regard to the resolution that I submitted, resolution number 7.
We waived the Thursday rule for all those pieces.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank
All
you,
right.
Councilman.
You did a wonderful job.
Thank you. Resolution to commission a housing study for the city of Utica, New York. I am going to read the first two whereases because there is some grammatical things I want to change, friendly amendments. Whereas the city of Utica is a growing and thriving city with an influx of resident citizens, businesses, and this population has significantly increased. Per 2020 United States Census, nearly 3,000 new individuals now live in the city. And whereas this influx of population in concert with other demands of adequate housing merit a public study of housing in the city of Utica, which is addressing the growing concern of housing stock and future potential, land capacity, middle income housing options, home ownership demographics, geographic composition of low income housing, and the proliferation of absentee landlords. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Utica Common Council calls on the Mayor and the Commission of Urban and Economic Development to commission a City of Utica comprehensive housing study with the following required findings: a neutral and comprehensive fact-based study on the nature and current status of current housing shortages and socioeconomic dimensions relation to housing, the various housing policies and ordinances that govern the City of Utica, including but not limited to landlords, permits of multiple dwellings, rental regulations, and low-income housing development pilots, potential land capacity of housing development with projection for increase in population, middle-income housing options.
Is there a second?
I'd be happy to second, and then
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to amend.
Motion to amend.
I just want that first sentence to read, whereas the city of Utica is a growing and thriving city with an influx of new residents
That's right,
and
you did say.
businesses.
You did say.
All right, is there a
friendly
second
amendment.
to that?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, second from Lemetico. Any opposed to the amendment?
You did say no. No, yeah, I missed it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to the legislation? Oh, you seconded the legislation. Your votes.
Nine A's adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think I have any more legislation. I do want to say briefly, my comments regarding the Wrightsboro thing. I know some folks are online who are probably waiting for me to comment. I've already submitted a letter, and I will not going to mention any more about that. I will say too that this week is Minority Business Week, and I had full intention of bringing the MWBE legislation out of committee. And talking with the mayor and the administration, we're going to take a different route and develop a committee in partnership with the Department of Urban and Economic Development, the mayor's office, the city council, and community partners to look at minority and women business enterprises economic development. So I'll be bringing forth that legislation to form a committee to look at how we can improve essentially fair access to business opportunities, contracting, bidding, and things for minority and women businesses. So I'll be bringing that and have the full backing of the administration. That's all, Mr. President.
Thank you. 6th District, Councilman Joe Beecher, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. First thing I want to do is I want to thank all the guest speakers tonight, especially the county executive. I will get with him and Marcus. I have questions for both of them. I have open dialogue with both of them, so I will ask them their questions on my own. As far as the Stephen Swan Humane Society, you guys all know from the beginning, that's one of the issues that I've had. So I gave them my card. I will be working with them to come up with. I liked her idea, and we can see what we, can accomplish there. This homeless thing. I got to tell you, I know I have a little problem in North Utica because I have a lot of commerce there, and I know at times the county has no choice but to put people there. But I've never had any dealings nowhere close to what I'm seeing from this Cobblestone Church. So I'm going to ask my colleagues here that we do get together and we need to work on something there. Also, Monday night at 6:30 in my district, we were going to be having a Meet the Candidates night, and it's basically for the candidates, the voters of North Utica, the candidates who will be on the city ballot for them. So you guys are all welcome to there at 6:30. And then I got one question for my colleagues, because in my district, I see Councilperson Friend is very adamant about the schools, and I guess, I give her credit for her passion, but I have 2 elementary schools and a junior high school in my area. And have any of you, all of us have schools in our area? I have not received any calls from anybody, and I'm just wondering if I'm missing the boat on that. Has anybody had calls in their districts? You have. Okay, so you're the only, Bob, none of you have, huh? Okay, that's all. I just want to make sure I'm not doing my job, getting the calls and I'm not answering, but I haven't heard anything about it. But if it's a problem, we should take care of it. Thank you. That's all I have tonight, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. We do also have the authorization of the sale of wine and beer for FX Matt and the transfer of funds, just reminding people. Council at large and Minority Leader Mark Williamson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wasn't really going to say nothing tonight, but, it's starting to become politics. And it's unfortunate. Yeah, I do work for the school board. I've been there for 15 years. That's why we can't run for school board, because we're employees of the school district. Yeah, take your video so you can put it on. But anyways, what I feel on this whole thing, we're out of our lane. We cannot do anything with the school board. I had not have received any calls, and I work closely with parents all the time. So when you come down and you say that, my character and everything else, I'll put my character against yours any day of the week. I'm not an obstructionist like you. This is all politics, and you're trying to play a game with me. And that's fine. Go ahead. You crossed that line. I've been on this thing for 8 years, and this is the first time I raised my voice to any council person. You're wrong. This is all a platform for you. That's all it is. Mr. Potter, I like his comments and everything else. That's fine. But we cannot do anything about it in this body. And you know that. But this is the game for you, and that's okay. Let people see who you really are. And that's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Council at large, any and a board member. Jack Lemedico, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Why not lighten the mood?
After that, I don't know what to say. But anyways, first I'd like to move the authorizing the sale of wine and beer at FX Matt Brewing Company.
Thank you. I'll just summarize it really quick. Name of the sponsor is FX Matt Brewing. Name of event, Boilermaker After Party. Date of event, Sunday, October 10th, 2021, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Location is Saranac Brewery, 830 Varick Street, Utica, New York. Second from multiple people. I'm going to go with McNeil. I saw you first. Your votes. DeBrango? I think you might. Oh, there it is. Thank you.
9 yeas adopted.
All right, and then proposed ordinance number 6, transfer of funds 2021 fiscal year per the DPW garage capital outlay.
All right. Is there a second? A second from Miola.
All right, let's vote.
Your votes.
All right.
Hang on. Call the vote, please.
9 yeas adopted.
Thank you.
All right, I got a couple things.
Okay.
All right. First, I'd like to thank County Exec. He's still here? There he is.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank him for everything he does for the city of Utica. One of the issues that we're having is with this shelter. It's the city's not going to fix it. The county's not going to fix it. It's in the wrong spot. There's no campus. The campus for that shelter is Dunkin' Donuts and the poor people on Plant Street and the poor people at Munson Williams Proctor Institute who are trying to run a college there. It's not a place for a shelter. It's a church, and it just doesn't work. I give the Reverend Bauman credit initially for bringing some people in, but now there are people coming from outside the city of Utica. And certainly the county executive is not busing them in. I think that's a fallacy. But they are coming in from all over. They're coming in from different counties, they're coming in from different towns within Oneida County. And it just is not a good place. I respect the Reverend for what he's done, but a good idea in a wrong spot is a bad idea. So we need to fix it. The county and the mayor need to get together, or the county needs to find something outside the city where there's a little more property and a campus where we could put these people instead of the city getting stuck with them all. I think that would be a great idea to start. And if we can't do that, we'll find another place in the city. But it needs to be a working project between everyone, and they need to move it. Once again, I feel sorry for the people on Plant Street. I feel sorry for the people that are in that area there. Nobody needs to have somebody passing out on their front porch with overdose. Nobody needs to have somebody going to the bathroom on their porch. Nobody needs somebody who's been shot laying on their porch. Nobody needs this. That place, if you're going to have a shelter, these people that are homeless need a place to go. And it can't be on other people's porches infringing on their rights. And that's exactly what this shelter is doing. It's infringing on the people that live in that neighborhood, and it needs to be moved. Second, what I'd like to talk about is I just found out about a week ago that there's a crematorium that's is planned for Forest Hill Cemetery. Now, here we go again, right? Sunset School turns into Kelberman Center. Nobody in the area knows what's going on. Nobody's been notified because it's on private property. Everybody has shut their mouth about it. Well, if I'm in South Utica or I'm anybody in the city of Utica, I'd like to know if there's a crematorium being built in my neighborhood. I don't care if it's North Utica, South Utica, East Utica, West Utica. The citizens need to know what's going on. And the people who are building the crematorium, as well as the city, need to step up and tell us what's going on there, because maybe the people in that area don't want it, or maybe that there's a lot of issues with putting people in ovens. And there's some religions out there that don't like that. And these are issues that people have to live with. You know, it might not be for me, but it could be bad for other people. And I think that anytime you build something like this, I think this needs to go out to the people of the city that this is actually going to happen. So I would like maybe the city of Utica give us a detail of what's going on there, and maybe the people actually building this crematorium come and talk to us about it, because I think the people of South Utica deserve to know what's going on. So I'll leave that for next week or next council meeting. But Brian, I know you'll get back to us on that, and I appreciate it.
I will.
And I think the people of South Utica need to know this, that they're going to have a crematorium built in their backyard. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman DeBrango, do you have anything this evening? Thank you for your attention throughout this. Thanks very much. I have something really quick, and then after I'm done, the judge would like to also be recognized during remonstrances before the adjournment. Oh, actually, Judge, hang on. I got something really quick. I was just saying that on the microphone. No, so before Judge Garamond has the floor, I just wanted to state that, one, I appreciate that during remonstrances, everybody said their piece, but they waited till they had the floor to respond. That was appreciated. The other thing I'd like to mention about the county executive coming to the meeting, regardless of the reason that triggered the county executive coming to this meeting, I think that the comments from the county executive were very productive in the fact that it is getting a lot of minds in this room ticking, and I do believe, for whatever the reason everyone came together in this room today, what happened here is that there will be some productive conversations that come out of it. So every single person in this room, including the county executive, thank you for coming this evening. Judge Garamond, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. In this morning's paper, I would like to mention that I lost two classmates. One was a high school classmate, Linda Romano, Lucille Romano Buckler. She graduated in the class of 54, and I knew her very well. And she was very prominent in the Democratic Party for many, many years. And I'd also like to mention and say that Sherwood Bowen and I pretty much grew up together, knew each other most of our lives, had companion lives where I worked at Garamone's and he worked at Trickus through high school and after we got out of service and everything else. And Sherwood was also a member of my graduating class at Utica College, where I was the president in 1961. And Sherwood was a good Republican, just like Mr. Buffalo was a good Democrat. And when Sherwood ran for Congress and he was challenged, I was his lawyer, and I went to 4 different courts and beat the challenge, including the Court of Appeals. And Sherwood was, I think everybody consensus feels, was a very good congressman, and he responded to all the people in his district, regardless of their political party. And to his wife, Mary Ann, I say my heartfelt sincere thank you for allowing me to say that.
Thank you for those words, Judge Garamond. Is there anything else this evening? Motion. We have a motion to adjourn. Second. Thank you.